Hello. Live already.
Oh, is Jared coming on?
I don't know. I haven't heard from him. I think he is.
Oh, I
I
hope
don't know
so.
why he wouldn't.
I'm planning on bailing fairly quick because multiple reasons.
You know, I just had a realization just right before I started. David Bokovoy's song, Monedas and Pennies or whatever. Remember that one?
Oh,
Monedas
yeah.
and Dimes? I think it's exactly Bananas and Blow by Ween. Monedas and dimes, ooh, monedas and dimes, monedas and dimes. Stuck in my cabana, living on monedas and dimes.
Well, that makes total sense.
I think I figured it out. I was just about to try to play it, see if it fits in. Somebody give me the lyrics to a Bokovoy song. And monedas and dimes, ooh, monedas and dimes, nickels and dimes. Stuck in my cabana, living on the nails and dimes, monedas and dimes. Yeah, I think it is. Solved that one. I was wondering why I heard it before.
You know what, though? That ties into my booze thing of this week.
Oh, what, you got a booze of the week?
Kind of. Well, so I finally, this stuff, it's Guatemalan natural medicine that, because like last year, I don't know, sometime last year when I was working at the wine store, tiny little Guatemalan lady came in, and I used my Spanish skill because she spoke no English, and I was trying to help her find what she needed. She's like, and she was looking for specifically for Panamanian agricole rum. I'm like, well, what are you making? And she said, medicine. I'm like, what? And she says, yeah, it's natural medicine that we make with rum. And she said, I'll bring you some. And I was like, no way. But like one day, like I wasn't even there that work day. I came into work one day and the other people were like, a tiny Guatemalan came in and left this for you. And it was just a jar, this little jar full of like twigs and leaves and sticks and something that looks like peanuts and dirt. I don't know. And then I looked it up, like, and you soak rum in it for a couple of weeks, which is what I've done here. And it says Hifiti is the brand. It's by Claudia F. Bebida Ancestral Garifuna. And it ayuda a combatir problemas de prostata. Oh, that's good news. Ayuda a la potencia sexual. Ooh. Ayuda el dolor menstrual. That you don't know that doesn't work on me. Ayuda a limpia del riñón. Y ayuda a controlar el estrés, la fiebre, dolor de espalda, etc. And then the telephone number there if we need to call. I wonder what happens if I call the number. But yeah, so it's supposed to be good for literally everything. And I have no idea what it tastes like. But I'm about to find out. Although, geez, I kind of wish I had a filter or something because there's bits of
You've never
Guatemalan
tasted before?
No, bits of Guatemalan plant matter. It's a beautiful color. Like it's kind of like a thick root beer kind of color.
Jared's just struggling with his computer.
Oh, that's stinky.
It's stinky?
Kind of. Because I use apparently, she said she was looking for specifically for a Panamanian rum that's made in the agricole style, which is because rum is usually made from distilled molasses, but it can also be made from sugarcane, just directly sugarcane juice. And I couldn't get Panamanian rum, so I used cachaça because that's kind of the same thing. But yeah, I wonder. I mean, the stinkiness is probably just kind of no, that's a smell on top of regular cachaça because it's not real good cachaça either. Well, it's got a medicinal smell to it for sure.
Medicinal is for your menstrual cycle.
Yeah, right? It's going to help my estrus.
I'm
going to maybe let it sit for a second to see. Well, no, that stuff's just going to float forever. I'm just going to have Guatemalan plant matter in my teeth.
I'm gonna find that song because that just like barely came to my head right before. I think it's a.
Oh,
But
it does not taste good.
it doesn't taste good.
It tastes like medicine.
Oh,
man.
but that's the thing. Like anytime I came across people, I always told you about this in Mexico that they thought the halls of medicine tasted like medicine or candy, and they thought root beer tasted like medicine.
I mean, this actually does have kind of a root beer kind of a thing to it, a little bit. I mean, which makes sense because it's made with roots and stuff. God knows what's in it. Like I said, like you can't really tell, but it's got like what looks like grass, a couple of like leafy things, some stuff that looks like bark, a lot of stuff that looks like dirt.
Mm.
It tastes a little bit like dirt. Oh yeah, that's not good. But we'll see if it helps my menstrual or my potencia sexual.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
Delicioso.
Yet I know she needs me. Yes, I know that she needs.
God damn it.
Well, I had to start with him. I could play another hymn if you want to.
It goes and die.
Okay, listen to this. Bananas and blow. Oh, it's not the chorus. Come on.
U.S. tourist, you tend to feel that you're not so alone. Hold my cup to you. You just want.
That's better at double speed.
I bet it's way better at half speed.
Is there no chorus? Why do I remember there's like a chorus?
There was. He's just nickels and
It's just
bananas
nickels and
blow.
I thought there was a larger chorus of going like bananas and blow. Ooh, bananas and blow. Bananas and blow. Well, you got a little tourist.
Like, the second to least
Tourist
rock
has his
roll
monedas. I know. Monedas and dollars. What was it?
I don't remember.
It's close enough to the same song.
It
Monedas and nickels. The American man, he tries to give me his moneda. And I say, can you think of the poor boy in the taxi? Nickels and monedas. Nickels and monedas. Living on nickels and monedas. I don't know, maybe I'm off on something.
Oh, God.
And I don't think it's worth having Potencia Sexual if you have to drink that crap. Yeah. I was hoping that it might actually have, an interesting character, but no, it tastes like fucking medicine.
All right, let's do it. Let's do a real hymn before we get going. I mean, we already had the sacrament, the wine.
We have hymns now. I forgot.
Confusing the real Jesus with Republican Jesus. With Republican Jesus.
Republican Jesus hates the poor, hates immigrants, hates women, hates people of color, hates LGBTQ. Hates anyone who isn't Christian. But love's a lying, cheating, thieving, misogynistic, racist sack of crap like Trump. Sounds nothing like the Jesus Christ I've heard about. Sounds nothing like the Jesus Christ I've heard about. No, I won't
Did you make AI do this, or is that somebody
I didn't
else?
do it. Somebody else did it. Yeah.
Because like, man, I don't know what you want to lead with, but I watched the fucking Church of Korihor yesterday,
Yeah, we
and
can
they've
go
got.
right into Church of Corey Horror.
Did you watch the because they've got the
I watched the
hymn.
whole thing, yes. That's
And
what I
like-
was making fun of. That's why I was going to hymns. But for some reason, I got on the Bakaway thing, and then I started thinking that it sounded like Bananas and Blow.
Like the hymn, did it literally say like with science and math to guide us?
Yes.
Like it's just
Everything, the whole hour and a half make you go, no, all the cliches we complain about.
no, like that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like because like if I was trying to do like a satire of like, well, what's the lamest, like most on the nose, woke church shit I could come up with, and like he's just nailed all of it.
It's like,
Have you ever seen?
Coach
have
has
you ever-
Michelle Stone on.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
Have you ever seen that Rick and Morty episode with the heist one?
Yeah.
Where they have to go up against the heist bot, and the way that they beat it is by like more levels of contrivance than it can handle.
Yeah.
So they're like, we actually came in here before you and fucked everything up. And he's like, well, I actually knew you were going to do that. And then they go like 3 levels back and it short circuits. I felt like the Church of Korihor hymn was going to short circuit atheism as a whole.
That's things like the whole thing. What I was thinking about the whole time is like it just made me feel so hopeless.
Churches.
Why the fuck do I waste? Why the hell am I supposed? Why the hell do I keep wasting my time trying to say that atheism, doesn't mean anything?
I keep telling you that.
Like, and just like he's just gonna walk up and be like, I'm gonna be Carden Ellis's and Jacob Hansen's perfect stereotype. I'm gonna fulfill every fucking stereotype that they talk about, and do it completely unironically, like. And that's things like it really did feel like church in that, like, okay, I've been here for an hour and a half and I have not learned anything. All I've heard is the same old shit I've heard every day of my life from you people forever. Like it just felt exactly like church in so many ways.
Well, the woman on there, it was hilarious listening to her explain, like they're talking at the beginning about who we should and should not cancel, like the utility of cancellation.
Yeah, I was gonna pull the whole clip through.
Oh, and she's just like, well, we would, you can talk to people and stuff like that, but some of these people, some of these atheists, like they've been educated over and over, and they just ignore it, and so then that's when it's appropriate to cancel them. And I was like, do you ever stop to think maybe like the reason they don't agree with you isn't because they're ignoring what you're saying, but it's because they think you're wrong? It's like every wokey thinks that there's this perfect combination of words that will just unlock the correct part in the person's brain. And I know that because I had missionary companions like that. It'd be like, that guy, we've been teaching him for like a month and I can't figure out how to get him baptized. Like, I just don't think he wants to. Like, oh. But no, there's got to be a way to get to him.
They also believe in the determinism. So you can't do it, but you can do it. But if you did do it, it was already determined that you did or what.
And did you clip the part? I think I know the timestamp roughly, but where like I just imagine them burning a picture of Martin Luther King as she talks about how like,
oh yes, Martin Luther King, he was a little weird with women.
Not even that part, but the part where she says like,
weird. Did you mean the rape part?
The part where she says like I can't remember exactly how she words it, but she basically says like, well, there's some people out there who say that we should all be united and that we shouldn't see race and be colorblind. And that's just the completely wrong thing to do. Like, there it is, folks. There it is.
They started shitting on the NAACP for like
being friends,
working together with Russell M. Nelson. And he's like, oh no, that's the wrong thing to do. Wait a minute, why is it the wrong thing? He called him my brother from another mother. What do you mean? Like a black dude and a white dude being like, hey, let's work together. Oh no, what are you thinking? Well, you gotta not be racist.
It was an extended thing on about how they need to cancel all of the 4 horsemen, stuff we've been telling everybody about for a while, but
I
Anyway,
was just waiting for her to get into Dawkins. I really wanted her to, because she's talking about how a lot of why these guys get canceled is because they step out of their lane and they talk about something that isn't within their expertise. And I was like, oh, please talk about how how Dawkins shouldn't be an expert on biology.
well, you see, he needs it unpacked for him by a gender theorist, a queer theorist. Oh, but does Bill Real subscribe to Foucault? No, but gender and queer theorists do, and he won't denounce them, and you guys are deferring to them.
One day we will crash and we will die. Oh, my friends, that's not tonight. By math and science, our path is clear.
Just goddamn you.
I want to know if he wrote it. Like, did he write these lyrics, or did the
Not 100%? He steered AI into writing.
because how much would you
I was
have
gonna
to
say,
steer
that's
the AI
AI,
into
right?
this? You're like, write me an atheist Tim, and it writes it. Like, well, make it more sciencey and like Neil deGrasse Tyson-y, and it writes it. And he's like, well, try it again, but like really fucking cheesy, like embarrassingly cheesy. And then after a few levels of that, it's got to just snap and be like, I'm sorry, I cannot ethically do this. This goes against my parameters. This is too much cringe.
I love science. I love science. Ooh. I had this screenshot. This is like half of I fucking love science. Female and male people cars.
You know what I say to that? You post that in the comments, and what I'm going to say is, tell me you don't understand advanced biology without telling me you don't understand advanced biology.
Boom, you got me. Boom.
Corihor
I'm
told me
defeated.
that I don't know. what
It's always
faith is.
hilarious to me that apparently what advanced... Fuck you! Ah!
It was that fast, and you guys saw it. You guys...
Yeah.
You guys have quick eyes for that stuff. Here's this one that was floating around Twitter this week. This gal that got the
Oh, yeah.
she got her PhD, 90,000 words, 292 papers, 227 participants. The architecture of whiteness: how institutional whiteness shapes academic careers in the UK. What were you saying about?
Oh, I love it when they bring up the advanced biology thing, and you're always like, wait a minute, is what? But like, I understand that there's things that, like in basic algebra, you learn a little bit differently than algebra, but once you learn like algebra, it's not like basic algebra, the rules are gone now. You know, it's not like all that stuff we taught you actually doesn't mathematically make any sense. Forget all of it. It's all stupid bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's got to be like, I feel like the way they frame it whenever they bring up advanced biology is that advanced biology is this thing that says, hey, all that stuff, nope. Well, then why'd you teach it to me? We should get rid of basic biology if it's the opposite of true.
Very, very true. Although it isn't the opposite of true. I've been following this channel because I just saw a bunch of people this week kind of pushing the thing of, hey, you know that you transitioned once your wife because we were all born females. Also kind of going off of that executive order that says you were born or you were conceived in a certain gender, but everybody starts at a female. But this channel is called Paradox Institute. They have good stuff on do we all begin female type stuff.
I imagine they're going to do a really good job of this because you showed me one of their other ones, but like this is such an easy fucking thing to answer. Like, are you saying that like I couldn't look into a microscope and observe that it's a male or a female when the embryo is like 2 days old? That's crazy.
But they try to also say that everybody's female first, and that's not really true. Anyway, I think around the 22-minute mark, they just went in on the new atheists. So just hit plays.
Yeah, I agree. You know, you bring up an interesting point here because, like, you know, as I was saying before about new atheism, right? Really, you're really talking about three characters and Daniel Dennett. As I said, I actually talked about this in my Godless sermon on Sunday. I'm like, you had three people, and then there was going to be Ayan Hirsi Ali, and that didn't work.
Is it too fast?
3 people.
Yeah, because he says he doesn't count Dennett, which I don't know why, because Dennett's the one who who reconciles with religion a little bit more, but I guess he just didn't do anything that was cancelable before he died. Is it too fast at that speed?
No, it's not fast
No.
enough.
Work out. Now, in retrospect, that's probably a good thing. But then you had three leaders, and then
Oh,
had,
you canceled the woman of color. Oh, just because she went back a little Christian. Oh my goodness.
There are different ways of knowing, dude. Come on, you got to get into the post-colonialism.
Not into her lived experience.
who was very welcome, may rest in reason. Right, but then you have these three white men, very well-educated men of privilege, but intelligent, brilliant
privilege.
men, each one of them
Shut the fuck up,
problematic in
dude.
his own way.
Shut the fuck up. Just shut up. God damn it.
In a lot of the same ways. Well, we still celebrate them, which is what's interesting to me. Because we have this boycott system of activism that exists in America, well, in the world really. And but we kind of have had to, because these leaders just emerged naturally. It feels to me like we kind of have to take them as a mixed bag and say, look, nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to have some problematic nature. You don't have to cancel them right off the bat. Canceling.
Guess who will get canceled?
Well, you have to struggle session them first.
You have to struggle session first. Guess what, dude? If you're starting a church, you're starting a thing, and you're a sleep around dude, you're a non-monogamist, your days are fucking numbered, motherfucker. You're not gonna last. You're going to get me too'd. That's how it goes.
Guys, I need you to talk me off of a ledge here. I am dangerously close to invoking the R slur.
Hey, just the other thing I was thinking about the whole time watching this is, do you guys remember the South Park episode "Let Go, Let Gov"? The way it ends, where because if you remember, Butters goes to the DMV to convince his sins to the government because he finds out that the government's watching him and taking care of him, all that stuff. And the whole thing at the end is that the DMV has been arrested for child molestation, and so now you can confess your sins to the post office. Oh no, wait, they've been arrested for child molestation. So the only person you can trust is the news. I've just been arrested for child molestation. And that's because the whole joke is that, because everybody does this where they're like, oh, every other religion is the fucked up one, so I'm going to start the good one. And no, they all end up going that way. It's unavoidable.
The other thing that beats me up, I'm getting a little irritated, and it's I'm adding in baggage from just like a week of people spazzing out about Trump, but I guess we got like 4 years of that, right? So I gotta reel it in. But you just all the new people who come into Atheism Plus and think it's about just consent and love and sex and sex and love is open and all that stuff. And you have two options. You don't get famous or popular, so you just, dwindle in obscurity, so nobody wants to come for you or your money, or you get big enough to get canceled. Those are your choices. It will happen to you. Those are your two choices. That's it. That is it.
I don't know if you noticed it, but there's this hilarious part in here. I think it's already passed, where they're talking about the problematic atheists and heroes and stuff like that. And they go on this tirade about Christopher Hitchens and how terrible he was on feminism and how that makes him problematic. And then the grace they extend to Martin Luther King Jr. is hilarious because she's like, and yeah, he was a philanderer, like a serial philanderer, and I mean, but who are we to shame sexuality and stuff like that? But that's a different conversation.
Philandering. He laughed at rape, at a rape. He participated in a rape, shitbag.
How are you extending more grace to that than the guy who was wrong about feminism?
You also don't know, because they were like preaching the critical race theory and the James Baldwin stuff here. They don't get that those guys canceled Martin Luther King for his ideas. They canceled him for the content of his character and ideas, not just his rapiness. So, but it all fits in line. This all kind of like reminds me back to Jordan Peterson trying to give a warning to H3H3. He was like getting into bed with people who were going to screw him over. And, here we are all this time later, but do you think like there's any ounce of anything where Ethan stops and goes, oh, Jordan Peterson said this is exactly how they were going to act to me? Like, has he given that acknowledgement at all?
Probably not. I don't know.
Because if you even like follow like the career of David Silverman after he got canceled from those atheist conventions, he has a bunch of stuff where he comes out and says, mea culpa, this stuff was idiotic and stupid, and I was so dumb to follow it. But usually that only happens after you get canceled by something, which is the other part of the show. If you want to stick around for it, Flip, is I've got extensive clips of Maven trying to reconcile Jen Camp and still holding on to the believe all women thing.
Oh yeah, that was
Man,
funny.
it's tempting.
That's
I was gonna think, I work early again tomorrow like I always do, but also I'm coming down from like a cold.
I hear it. I hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it. Yeah, so like I'm just generally beat, and I've been working overtime every week, including this week.
Oh,
The
nice.
people demand your voice. They demand your voice.
I did put in the effort by listening to this entire fucking thing this morning while working. I don't know why I tortured myself like that.
I want to say something to you that only Bill Real says to RFM constantly. Flip, when you say things in your mouth, they communicate things into my head. And when you say the things from your mouth into my head, they make me think different thoughts in my brain.
Ooh,
and those things are good things.
Troy says, "Reel me in."
What you want to say?
Send the thing to the thing.
Freezing it. Or is he just saying that he's here for the show?
I don't know. He can. I interpret it as I want to get on. But,
Yeah.
Everything tonight is these guys trying. I mean, I guess it's just that's all of it in one nutshell. These guys trying to reconcile their ideas that don't reconcile still. And I guess we're kind of living in a world right now where none of it's reconciling right, and they're not figuring it out yet. But I mean, maybe they'll find a Joe Rogan that'll get them out of it. Everybody's saying Jon Stewart's going to be the next guy to really pull them out of it. I was just watching Pete Buttigieg denouncing DEI that just came out on Twitter.
What?
Yes, I was like, what in the what?
Man, that's even bigger than AOC taking her pronouns out of.
I've got the clip. I'm not even exaggerating it. He was like dunking on DEI. I'm like,
what
well, I don't really believe Pete Buttigieg is doing anything but the next politically smart thing, but it is a politically smart thing. Like if he goes that route, if they start figuring that out, they can get back in the game. You know, it's not too late.
Buttigieg, you've come a long way away from the highways are racist.
Does happen, and I think that sometimes it has to happen. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. Like, do you think that there's a system that works for that? Does canceling work? And is atheism different in the way that we're doing that?
So I do think a little bit of credit here, just in the sense of most psycho lefties don't question it at all and don't even like say that they don't love it. And Joe does say that at least, whereas most of them are like, cancel them all. It'll never come for me. Cancel them all.
Steve said 2028 Kamala and AOC dream ticket. No, my dream is that the 2028 Democratic nominee is Joe Biden. He's the only one that's ever defeated MAGA, and they got to get him out of it, right? They got to get him out of retirement. I'm too old for this shit. It'll be like a Michael Bay movie. Like, I told you, I retired.
I was not expecting that.
You guys didn't want me anymore. And when inevitably Trump decides that term limits are bullshit and runs again, obviously, because that's going to happen, Joe Biden can take him down and save us for a second time.
Here you go. Not telling tales.
A little bit of that event you described, and it was a caricature of everything that's wrong with our ability both to cohere as a party and to reach to those who don't always agree with us. And we cannot go on like that. We cannot. I also think that we believe in the values that we care about for a reason. And this is not about abandoning those values. It's about making sure we're in touch with the first principles that animate them. What do we mean when we talk about diversity? Is it caring for people's different experiences and making sure no one's mistreated because of them, which I will always fight for? Or is it making people sit through a training that looks like something out of Portlandia, which I have also experienced? And it is how Trump Republicans are made. If that comes to your workplace with the best of intentions, but doesn't actually get at what actually matters here.
It doesn't have the best of intentions, but
there are not good intentions there.
I know what he's doing. Like, I know that this is
they have to go that route,
and he's being smart. But I have this dream inside of me that this is just who Buttigieg has always been, and he's finally like, oh my god, I can just say the things. He's snapping, and he's like, fuck you guys. It's not true, but that's how I want to believe.
Oh, I don't know that it isn't. I think a lot of those people on that side really knew all along it was a bunch of horse.
Well, that was a funny joke he made about it, something out of a Portlandia sketch. I was like, man, that sounds like he's thought about this before.
And a ton of them sat there through a bunch of the stuff going like, am I watching a Portlandia skit? Like, what is going on here? And what's his name? Jim Crane, the strategist for the Democrats. He's been coming out losing his mind about it.
Yeah.
And Bill Maher has been for a while, but it seems like there's some people trying to tell them to really put the woke away and they'll get back in the game. And they got to do it.
Yeah,
and if they do it,
baby steps, Korihor. Just stop using Latinx and go from there.
Apparently he identifies as Latinx.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
he's allowed to call him that
if
for
you're
it.
going to be polyamorous, if you get any success in this, you will be one giant step out of it when you get canceled for some sort of sex pest stuff. That will happen to you, whether you're a sex pest or not, because that's the Schrodinger's. Guess what I found out about Schrodinger? Guess what I found out about Schrodinger?
Oh, did he diddle kids?
Guess about Schrodinger. Turns out Schrodinger was a pedophile.
No way.
Yes. Who wasn't? Guess what I found out about Isaac Asimov? Guess what I found out about Isaac Asimov? Although he was
everybody's bad.
Yes.
You sound so defeated.
Isaac Asimov, it was adult women, but it was just it was just Martin Luther King stuff. This lady could forgive him if he was black.
These guys are making Joseph Smith seem like an actual prophet at this point.
Anyway, what was I talking about? Schrodinger's. Oh, it's Schrodinger's. Well, we'll get to it with Maven. It's Schrodinger's
sex pest,
sex harassment claim. Because when it comes to a male feminists are the ones who would do that, but those are the ones who would false accuse. And I've got the statistics. Oh, and I've got Maven and her friends saying what the statistics are and being completely wrong about it. But they love science. Let's see here.
We follow the science. Amen.
I've made fun of Bill Reel here too. We got some stuff. Bill Reel's based, man. Bill Reel's based. I think Bill Reel's one of them. Bill Reel is a Buttigieg. He's one of them sitting there going like, I want to come out of the shell of like not being able to say bullshit. Like even when I call him out on the Foucault stuff, like I'm just pointing out that because of his audience, he can't say it. But I believe Bill Reel 100% would not mince words about the Foucault stuff if he could in front of an audience that wouldn't hang him for not being down with the queer theory. You know,
both right, and there's layers to all of it. And as someone who has had a cancel call like from my head previously, I know what that feels like. I won't really get into that here because I will say that people have seen and I show that I have proven, my work in this community and my dedication and my passion, even through any mistakes or any flaws.
You're racist?
I think,
what she's talking about? No. I looked it up because she's got a Wikipedia thing, and it's interesting. It's like, so something happened. It didn't specify what it was, but like I think it was, they said like the American Humanist Cruise or something like that. She did something inappropriate that pissed everybody off. To her credit, apparently she copped to it and apologized and said, I didn't act well. I did something wrong. And then she resigned from the board of whatever, the American Humanists or something like that. But like, yeah, that's what she's referencing is they tried to cancel her, or they partially did. So she knows what's up.
Well, here it is. Schrodinger's pedophilia. The cat is out of the bag box. Oh, of course they got to do it with Forest Magazine. You got to do it with some little what was that?
Full screen ad.
Full screen ad, and then you got to add like a little joke about it. Oh, Schrodinger's pedophilia. And he's pretty out in the open with it. He thought he's entitled to consort with young girls. Schrodinger's Joseph Smithery.
Well, it's just him and that guy. Where's he from? Just this week in KSL, an immigrant guy is being charged with 32 felonies for sex with a teenage girl, and he told police, "In my culture, it's normal."
And who is to say? Who is to say what is the normal?
A Salt Lake man accused of abusing a 13-year-old girl while allegedly claiming sex with teenage girls is common in his culture is now facing 32 felonies. Yerwin Lanier Bolivar.
Bolivar. That's
okay. There he's French.
That's do you know who Bolivar is?
Or
Bolivar?
Syrian, I don't know.
He's Venezuelan, and the last sentence of the article is, in Venezuela, sexual activity with 13-year-olds is illegal.
You know that he should have gone to the UK instead. They probably would have been like, "Well, he didn't understand. It's not his culture."
Since we keep doing discoverers and conqueror people, you guys all know who Simon Bolivar is, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the major South American kind of Christopher Columbus conqueror person, whatever.
Oh, I thought you were saying Simone de Beauvoir.
No, Simón Bolívar. The guy's name. Simón Bolívar. He's major name in South America that people don't really know about in the U.S. Here we got Jonathan made for us, Chris Hansen.
I think you need to take a hi there. I think you need to take a seat, Mr. Foucault. Hi there.
And this is Mr. Bolivar.
A modern neo-Marxist pedophile, haven't you? But you see, I repeat myself. You have been quite the naughty
Jared's
French
voice.
philosopher post modern Marxist pedophile, haven't you? But see, I repeat myself.
It's Jared's AI voice.
That's creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
I am just going about my Chris Hansen. I am surprised to see you here. I am just going about my business. Never you mind, Chris Hansen. I am surprised to see the long arm. Chris Hansen, I am surprised to see the long arm of the institutions concerning themselves with my perfectly historically average behavior. Chris Hansen, I am surprised to see the long arm of the institutions concerning themselves with my perfectly historically average behavior.
I am surprised. Chris Hansen, I am surprised to see the long arm of the institutions concerning themselves with my perfectly historical average behavior.
I had a ChatGPT make up a bunch of fake Foucault history. I was like, please make up fake historical references to times that sexuality was viewed very differently than in current day America. Certainly, here are several fictional historical references to different times and places where sexuality was viewed differently than in contemporary America. The marble decrees of Lucidia in the ancient Lucidian city, it was customary for young nobles to enter into mentorship unions with older peers of the same gender. That's exactly just what Foucault did. Just hours and hours of that. The history.
Yeah, I need to jump back into that his book on sexuality because that was wild.
The history of sex.
Yeah, and it's just him talking. Like he'll do like a couple paragraphs, and then he'll talk about how awesome it was back when parents would just openly fuck in front of their kids.
Yeah. And man, that's the stuff that you had to question because they're all dubious.
Those was the days.
But it's also, I was just listening to hardcore history, and like everything we know about Alexander's dubious. You can't really tell, so he must have been gay. And well, Dan Carlin didn't say that. He was just dubious history about the wars and stuff. But the rest of the historians can come in, the Foucauldians, and the David, what's his ass that Dan McClellan loves to cite, that the David Halperin, he must have just been gay too. He fill in the gaps, the gay of the gaps. You fill in the gay of the gaps with all of the information that's not there.
Who have in their respective fields are very, are should be very accredited and lauded. It is when they have spoken on things that they really had no business speaking on, and they should have deferred to other experts. They should have deferred to other, subject matter experts.
Please, Exmo Joe, please come tell us who Richard Dawkins should have deferred to when it comes to and why is Dan McClellan allowed to talk about it? Because his expertise is in what early Bible Hebrew, but he's able to somehow talk to everybody about everything. He's a content expert on all things.
When it comes to things that were out of their level, out of their understanding.
And somebody explain to me why Chomsky is, Chomsky's an expert on world politics. The dude was a linguist.
Hey, do you want me to tell you what it takes to be a subject matter expert? Okay, here it goes. Systemic oppression is real. Black people are held down by the system. Women, the patriarchy is real. Women are held down by the system. There you go. I am a subject matter expert. She will not question what I just said because I said the right thing. That's why Dan McClellan is okay to spout off his bullshit.
He's on the good team. So it's like all these posts I've seen about like, how dare you guys, the billionaires on your team. I'm like, which billionaires? Like all the billionaires that you guys declare on your team? Like, you guys say so and so's not a doctor. I'm like, well, but Bill Gates is. Bill Gates, the billionaire, is a doctor. Like if he's on your guys' side, he's on your side. But we shouldn't be tribal. Just this week, Nemo put out his video about Jacob Hansen and saying all this stuff like, "Oh, why are we being tribal on this stuff?"
And I do think that it is a privilege at times to be able to speak to something as a degreed person who has such fanfare that at times, if you are unfamiliar with a subject and you are not going to do the research on it, to just shut the fuck up. And I think that there have been some folks who have platformed folks in bad faith, so to speak. And for those of us who are
this example is hilarious. This example is hilarious because I think what she does right here, doesn't she bring up Sam Harris platforming the bell curve guy?
Yeah.
And then calls who's the bell curve guy? Is that Charles Murray?
Yes.
Yeah. Saying that, Charles Murray is not a subject matter expert on this?
He is the subject matter expert.
I know. What are you talking about?
I like how, listen to her too. She says she doesn't even watch the episode.
I'll be right back. I got to pop my pregnant wife's back.
Oh.
To dismiss the fact that there has been scientific racism. You cannot deny this. This is historically factual. There was a time that even through
this is the science that you guys don't love. You don't love the science on this stuff.
The fields of science and how they have advanced. There have been practitioners who have been racist and who have come up with ideas that have been very, very harmful. And it doesn't make us less.
Come up with the ideas. They put out the ideas from the actual test studies that are done. The same test studies say that on average, Ashkenazi Jews and East Asians are smarter than whites. Like, what do you want them to do? Like, come on.
Then to acknowledge that. But when you platform people who actually say that there's basis for it, and when you actually try to deny folks' humanity, especially in their identities, and you do it consistently, you do it in a way that is extremely
that was stupid.
And
I don't recall him denying anybody's humanity. That's not part of that.
Your credibility.
Nothing about the bell curves says anything about an individual, but you guys are the ones who think in groups like that. The bell curve does not tell me what John McWhorter and Glenn Lowry's IQs are, and I idolize freaking Glenn Lowry. It doesn't tell me what Thomas Sal's IQ is.
Oh yeah, well that's the other thing. I mean, I know they brought it up. She says somewhere about talking about black voices. Yeah, unless it's Thomas Sowell or Larry Elder or
those are just tokens for you, Flip.
Morgan Freeman, Dave Chappelle. These are all black voices.
They're selectively colorblind.
Yeah. Who is that? Who are those other two Harvard guys? There's the dude who did the studies on the cops, and then Walter.
Roland Fryer.
And Walter Williams.
I don't know.
Because you are not
both also canceled as canceled.
We did also just name a whole bunch of men.
Oh, geez, Louise. Well, they mentioned Ayaan Hirsi Ali. They're the ones who discredited her.
Their dignity and their humanity. That becomes a problem. And then that does deserve some sense of, okay, well, we're going to have to dial this back. There does need to be some accountability there. And it's not, again, if it's just, this person said one thing one time, or they may have said it years ago, they may have changed now. We should just cancel them for what they said years ago. And
Charles Murray stands by his book now. Come on.
They change. I think that is absolutely unrealistic and it's unreasonable. However, if someone who is very public facing continues to show to display very problematic dispositions as well as behavior, even after these things have been called to their attention, but they continue to ignore it, then there does need to be some action.
So it's like the stuff that always drives us nuts. It's like you guys want to cock your heads back and say you love the science and all that sorts of stuff. But if the science is racist, your moral standpoint, your religious moral standpoint trumps the scientific truth. You are the same as a religious person. That is the same thing. You are doing religion there. But I guess that's why you call it the Church of Korihor.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be ironic.
Yeah, no,
it's just like with the Church of Satan, it's supposed to be ironic.
Yeah, well, that was exactly what I was about to mention. Is because 20 years ago, in the heyday of the new atheism, the 2000s atheism thing, the Church of Satan effectively used satire to uphold the establishment clause, the separation of church and state. And they were good at it, and it's all they did. And I was 100% in support of them doing it. But they have absolutely turned into a religion, unironically, that moralizes and finger wags and denies science and all that crap. you know. But like, yeah, they used to be an actual satire thing, and that's things like, you know, at first I thought that horror was supposed to be a satirical thing, but I realized like he's not even pretending like it's a satirical thing. No,
Yeah, it's
he's
just
dead
pretty crazy
serious.
stuff.
It's just a fucking church, and the thing is like, he seems to think that he's the one guy who's going to start the church without any of the pitfalls of the church. But I mean, as we're pointing out here, no, you're doing everything church does. Everything you don't like about church is what you're doing.
Right down to the polyamory.
Right down to the polyamory.
Right out to the origination stories. But this is, I mean, I've mentioned it many times before. Read Curtis Yarvin's How Dawkins Got Pwned. And I think he does a much better kind of very specific taxonomical description of how you guys are just bringing the old ideas of like your Christianity into the 2.0 thing. And it's just some form of universal Unitarianism. And I have always heard the complaints of people saying like what Flip says, like atheism is not supposed to be all this and leaving something isn't supposed to be all this. Just, I also go with what Jared says, but it tends to. You guys do it, so please stop it. It doesn't have to. You could be a Troy, you could be a Forrest, you know, you could do that. But no, you go and be a Dan McClellan like every time. You go and be atheism plus every time.
Well, anytime you get online, there's always some atheist talking about how no true atheist would ever blah, 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 blah. No, okay, there's no true atheist would believe in God. That's it. Like if I tell you like I pray to Jesus every day, I believe he died for my sins, also I'm an atheist, you can be like, no, you're not.
Yeah. That's also, that's the other thing I was thinking about the whole time listening to this is how like my objections to Exmo Joe are the exact same as my objections to Jacob Hansen. Like, you guys keep talking about atheists. Most Buddhists, Jews, and many Hindus are atheists, and they don't fit in your fucking definition.
And there does need to be, okay, well, there should be some consideration. Okay, well, at this time, this person was very helpful in my transition, but about now, they are leaning in ways that are not progressive, that may need to be called out. And I do think that it is important for us to continue to maintain our, you know, our principles of evidence, skepticism, critical thought, and but also compassion, right? Understanding and being empathetic of each other, realizing that.
So do you guys know, you hear more stuff came out this week about the trans cult that's murdering people?
Yeah.
What are they called? The Azizis or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
What else came out? I don't know. What's the news?
Do you know what they say that they worship?
Lilith?
Empathy.
Oh, rationalism.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's what's the cult in, was it Simpsons or Futurama? The Reasonableists or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
The movementarians?
I don't remember that. There was some show I watched where it's like, we're the Reasonableists. We only deal in reason, shit like that. But
that must have been an episode I never saw.
I don't know. I don't know which show it was. So.
Oh.
That education and information is going to be, learning is going to be lifelong. And even if you are a person who is, you know, who has academic credentials, you are not exempt from learning and improving. And it's going to be important that that we allow people, and we allow us as human beings to be able to have that level of understanding and room for compassion, but not to the point where we are deifying them and just getting so defensive of them to the point where it's showing continuous harm and continuously disregarding folks who, especially the folks of the voices who have not been heard previously. That definitely that definitely is an issue. It is a concern that should be addressed and resolved. So I think that it is important that they don't get to gatekeep who represents our community, and also be open to understanding the institutional oppression. All these people of privilege have benefited off of the back of those who have been further oppressed. And you don't just get to dismiss that. You don't just get to dismiss it and say, well, I may not be outwardly, and they may very well mean well, but subconsciously and systemically, they may still be causing harm. And so to address it doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to take them down, but when you are intentionally, fighting back against that, then yes, that does become an issue. And we've seen that in some of like the four horsemen that you have referenced. And I think it is important that we should be actively looking to support and amplify and better platform those.
It's always the stuff like, who does the gatekeeping? What does cause harming? Who's harm on who? Big one this week. Free speech.
Who gets to have all the sex they want with whoever they want?
Who gets to have all the sex?
It was Parks and Rec, by the way. That was this show.
Oh.
It was that cult that said that like Zorp was gonna come and abduct them and take them away and kill everybody who didn't pledge allegiance. And they're like, "What's the name of your group again?" We're the Reasonableists.
Good.
We're coming off a week also where JD Vance, I guess, scoured the European leaders about their free speech issues, and then CBS came on out and told us that free speech caused Hitler.
Okay, so I messaged this to you guys before, but I was like, okay, it is pretty early in the year to already have a dumbest thing said in 2025 thing, but it's going to be really fucking hard to beat. Free speech was the foundation upon which Hitler committed the Holocaust.
Well, these people all just read their Marcuse. That's all. They know. They went to college. They know what's up.
For them, free speech for me, not for the our democracy, our patriotic pluralism. For us, we can gatekeep. You can't gatekeep.
That is the funniest thing. That's the funniest thing. Anytime they bring up the word gatekeeping, it sounds like anytime a Nazi would talk about the Jew, like they say it with that stank, the Jews, like it's gatekeeping. It's this ontologically evil thing, and then they don't even realize that they're doing it.
They're doing it, but when we do it, it's righteous. And the whole other thing is that we've talked a million times here about entryism, that there's nothing like if we were you type of assholes, really, we would go insist on actually trying to enter the Church of Korihor and taking it over and turning it into Libertarian Church of Korihor. That's what I was kind of joking about when he popped up in the thing. Like, I'm going to take it and turn it into a traditional nationalist church. I'm gonna be an entryist into it. Like, I demand you let us all in, or you're not being nice. And go make all of your little Relief Society ladies saying, please let the nice little traditional nationalist in. And then I'm going to start insisting that you guys start preaching traditional nationalism from the pulpit all the time. No, I leave you the fuck alone. That's what we do. That's our non-aggression principle that we do. I'll make fun of you. But I'm not going to go try to enter your thing and insist that you do not gatekeep me out.
It's weird. Like, we don't need to make an entire church with a bank account and articles of corporation to say you can have your thing.
Who are diversifying and bringing more nuance to this movement. It's going to take intentional seeking them out, making sure that there is a level playing field, if you will. And if there's bad information, being presented,
I still hear that constantly. People describe themselves as nuanced Mormons and all that stuff like that.
Oh God, that means not Mormon. Like, effectively, that's what it means every time. I'm a nuanced Mormon. I think Joseph Smith was a pedophile. Well, it kind of makes you not a Mormon, right?
The community, we have the opportunity to help correct each other in that and become better. And for those who are willing to be flexible and to take that step back to say and be willing to admit, okay, well, I was wrong, I stand corrected.
All right, I'm going to jump to the 44-minute mark. I think he goes into the Martin Luther King stuff. We've already ragged on that. We don't need to hear them say it, but I just like this little part right here that I think comes up.
I hate to take any credit like this, Mendy, but we really are leading this. I mean, we're at the front end of this, right?
Absolutely. We still face an uphill battle. We still face an uphill battle of dealing with patriarchy and also racism, sexism. And the one thing I've always
this is the dying end. This is the tail end. Like, new atheism died. Atheism plus died. Like, this is the tattered remains of a dead empire.
I know you guys are on the exact opposite end of what you think you are. Like, we're actually setting the foundation. No, you saw the foundation of it, and you are so late to the party.
You're the embers of the thing that was there.
The woke shit is dying so hard that Pete Buttigieg is calling it out. Like, that's how bad it is for your team right now, buddy.
Couple years ago, it made some people mad, but whatever, right? So the one thing I say is that when it comes to institutions and how people think, you don't necessarily have to be physically shackled or physically held down to be reinforcing harmful ideals, because sometimes it is so baked into the fabric of how we live, and it tends to be subliminal at times. And so ultimately, many of us can be guilty of reinforcing these ideals without even realizing it. Which means that it makes it harder for trans people, and we're seeing this now in public policy. We're seeing the erosion of trans rights. We've seen the erosion of reproductive health and reproductive rights. We are seeing the erosion of racial justice. And there are some people who don't realize that they are helping to support things that are not in their best interest. And sometimes we still fall into these traps of who we see as being the representative for us which makes it harder for women and LGBTQ-led organizations and that have leadership in them to get the support that we need, to gain the traction that we to get that, because there are just some people who are still so used to a certain aesthetic of what it means to be a leader and who should be supported, and that's something that all of us need to unpack. And I think it's wonderful, and that has been a part of our mission since the beginning. And we welcome all. And
I think she said it too. She's into reparations. I like how, like, in the midst of all this stuff, some Democrats went and tried to introduce a reparations bill in the midst of like just completely falling flat on their faces with everything. But
his nodding is intense. It reminds me of
isn't that funny?
It reminds me of the shittiest TikTok trend ever, which is just taking somebody else's video that you think makes good points and just going.
Yeah, I was just watching one right before this, and it took me like halfway through it to realize that the other person on the video wasn't going to add anything.
I know.
So I was sitting there waiting for them to like add their part or say something.
They never.
Oh no, they're just the stares, and sometimes they're not even pointing. Sometimes they're just there smiling at it.
Yeah, no, that Kyle, what's his face guy that Nuance Ho had on a bunch of times, the religious transitions coach guy. That was like half of his TikTok was just him doing that, saying fuck all, like literally
like
saying
a Hassan Piker content theft stuff, or is it that they're boosting the other person? Like, boy, oh boy, I like them,
but it's cringier. So congratulations, you're cringier than Hassan Piker.
Enough of that one, man. This week on Mormon Stories, they covered how that polygamy lesson thing got altered. They've altered the polygamy lesson for kids, and I've seen them calling it grooming and all that sorts of stuff, which brought to my mind, if this is grooming, what do you call all of those little cartoonish books that we saw that I'm sure places like Church of Korihor freaked out about, calling them like book bans and all that.
You banned the book. It was just teaching children that sometimes you can use your tongue on the anus if you like. Some people are into that.
But Jared had a few memes about consent, and I pulled up like from ChatGPT about how like consent's not an ultimate answer, and ChatGPT is able to answer it well enough. But anybody can kind of think of like where consent gets weird, and we've made fun of it and poked at it a little bit with the Foucault stuff and all that. But I just wanted to pull up our good friend Natasha Helfer, and then maybe show some of her nudity she consented to. Oh wait, no, consent, man, consent. Let me see here. I do not consent to hear the vocal fry, but I guess I have to consent to it.
Assault can definitely include forced coercion, where people don't know, they cannot give consent because consent is coerced. And some people might confuse this with unwanted sexual consent. I do think that there are times when people will have sex for a variety of reasons, and maybe it's not because they want pleasure out of it. But when you're entering the concept of coercion, we are now past that as well. We are now in the realm of sexual assault. And so what I want to...
Go back, lady. Tell me what unwanted sexual consent is. I don't...
I don't think she ever gets to it. Unwanted sexual consent.
Okay, Rich coming from Steve here. Steve here saying, I did not consent to seeing a nude of her this week. Well, neither did we, Steve. We didn't fucking ask for that. You posted it for us all to see.
Sneaky snake. You're trying to wipe your hands of that. You can't wipe your hands of that.
Rich coming from you.
Steve had that, and Steve also has an ongoing cartoon series that got real spicy this week, and I'm on the edge of my seat to find out what continues to happen in that one.
This one's Natasha Helfer, and she's talking about how this concept of consent and what that means, and really in Mormon polygamy, consent doesn't exist. First of all, you have a prophet of God who is telling you that this thing is...
It doesn't exist because you say it doesn't exist. Foucault could make it exist, but you guys can announce that it doesn't exist.
Well, because also, even if you use these power dynamic things, right? Like, because I would agree that, yeah, like...
I don't think it exists either, yeah.
Well, in certain circumstances, like the whole the Nancy Rigdon thing, like that doesn't feel like as if she's a 16-year-old and her whole family's pressuring her to marrying this guy and he's the prophet and she's gonna go to hell if she doesn't or whatever. But like how close do the power dynamics have to be before consent can exist? Do they ever get into that? Like, because there's nobody, if you're the prophet, nobody's on your same level. So unless you had a prophetess who had just as much authority as you, like how can they be close? You know, our power.
So they had an episode. It's not a bad episode this week of going through every single one of Joseph Smith's marriages and if he had sex with them or not, if they can tell for 100% sure or not. But you have to be able to notice if you watch most of them that except for the younger gals, which is why Bill Reel brought up the younger gals, in most of the cases, unless you wanted to wield it around saying there's a power dynamic, which they'll do that infinitely and then retract it when they don't care, because obviously there's a power dynamic when you're Martin Luther King, right? If you're Martin Luther King going around, you're Martin Luther freaking King, and you're the pastor, and you're the nation's guy. I mean, there's a power dynamic there, right? They tried to say it was there with Louis C.K. that he was so powerful in the music industry that, I mean, in the comic industry, that there's always a power dynamic there. The power dynamic there with Neil Gaiman, but it won't. It's not there with Bill Clinton or it's not there with Bill Clinton or Joe Biden who finger blasted their aides. Well, Bill Clinton was a cigar, you know. That's not a power dynamic because I mean,
what do you mean by the word "is"? Huh? What is your definition of that word?
I love just trying to square all their circles, you know.
Right, and you have to do it. And so that's anyway. So this is just her talking about consent.
They're talking about consent, right? And consent is an agreement between participants to engage in sexual activity. So again, I'm not against the concept of polygamy as a relational structure. What I'm against is coercion in any relationship structure, right? So polygamy could be done following sexual health principles. I don't know that there's many examples of that throughout history. And I think polyamory is definitely done in sexual health principles.
Does polyamory, does polygamy have to be in a religious context? Or if I just did polyamory and it's me and 4 women, isn't that just polygamy?
Well, it's I don't know. It'd be funny to listen to. You do a polyamory thing. It's you and it's 4 women, and you all consent to it. They consent to not ever looking for another man, but you can look for as many women as you want.
That's polygamy, right? Or is that polyamory because because it's 2025? Yeah,
it's all just hedonism. But the point is, it'd be really funny to listen to them try to sort of, because there's a deep visceral part of her that if you told her that's your arrangement would be like,
you're being bad to those women and you're a male who's coercing them.
Because we all would, most of us would be like, that's
because it is what it is. Because that's what it is.
But she can't say that it's fucked up because it fits perfectly within her worldview. And so, but she would want to say that it's fucked up. So it'd be interesting to see if she could kind of weasel her way into saying that, no, it actually is fucked up for this and this and this reason.
But I was like, because all sex is a negotiated transaction on some level. There's no way around that. And as long as that's the case, there's going to be some kind of imbalance, which you can interpret as coercion. It's just all a slippery slope into you made me do this. And also her voice.
I remember, I brought this up before, but years ago, I watched through the entire series of Big Love. And I think it was Dustin Lance Black, that dude who was a part of the Prop 8 stuff, who was also a writer on this. But I got to the end of the series, and spoilers alert, I hate to give spoilers on it, but not really. It's been out forever, and it doesn't end that great. It's a pretty good series, but it doesn't end very well. I was kind of expecting that all these women would figure out how to empower themselves and go their own way. You know what I mean? And no. By the end of it, they just decide that they're all a proper polyamorous family, right? And I was very, very confused by it by the end of it, because I thought I was watching an arc and I just got confused by it. And so then I watched the behind the scenes stuff where the people were talking. And of course, it was all written by a bunch of queer theorists, right? And in all the behind the scenes stuff, they were talking about, we ultimately wanted to send this out as a stand of solidarity with the Mormons, that we agree with you that consent and marriage and some family dynamics and relationships are what you decide they are, not what society decides they are. And I was like, oh, you guys, this whole thing was a solidarity freaking thing with the Mormons and their polygamy? What? And yeah, that's really in there. You can go watch their stuff where they say that after like the whole series ends, because I just got completely dumbfounded that it wasn't about any one of their escape stories. I thought one of them would have an escape story. No, there's no escape story. It's this is love too. And then they said in all of their propaganda or the stuff around it, their interviews around it, that they were trying to put out a solidarity message. If you can support you can support us. Why don't we join forces?
This feels like when Liz Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris. She should have just been like, "Oh God," like the Mormons are endorsed by the postmodernists. Like, "Oh,
well, that's what I keep saying to Bill Real." Like through that and Taylor Petrie's Jars of Clay book and Dan McClellan's claims through Dave Halperin, yes, we can try to make bedfellows of that stuff. That's what Papa Osler is trying to do. That's what that queer, I think she's also an Osler, was that queer Mormonism podcast does. And the pre-existence was, I mean, let alone before you're an embryo and all that sorts of stuff, like way before that, like in heaven, it's perfectly set up for queer theory. You can make like the unholy chimera of Mormonism and queer theory.
Principled ways, or can be. That's not really the issue, because again, for anybody who's sitting on a monogamous high horse, there's plenty of coercion and similar themes happening in a compulsory monogamous script, which is also what we have in most of Christendom, not just LDS land. So consent has to be given, has been agreed to. Consent cannot be given by somebody who's underage. So even if a 14-year-old is going, I think this is a fabulous idea.
Why?
I wish we had Foucault on the panel. Foucault's listening. I was, oh yes. She gets to consent can't be given by someone who's underage. Oh, hold the fucking phone. Hang on. What?
Legally, this is your institutional proposition. Why did we have to medicalize this? Why did we have to bring in the long arm of the law on these situations? These were handled within the family back in the times before the institutions came and categorized everything with their violent categories.
The age of consent is a prison.
Chris Hansen, I am surprised to see you here. I am just going about my business. Never you mind. Chris Hansen, I am surprised to see the long arm of the institutions concerning themselves with my perfectly historically average behavior.
It's just you just have an assertion there, and your assertion is not backed up by half of academia, lady. I got a degree from the place. Yeah, sure. There's not a degree. Whatever you have isn't even a degree. I mean, we looked into it. I mean, there's not like a sexologist degree anywhere.
I have a degree in consentology.
God. But if they did get a degree and they did bring it into the institutions, they'd really quickly bring Foucault into that, because that's what seems to happen at those places.
God told me himself.
God told me himself that I should listen to this person who's telling me to have sex with them. They're not capable of giving consent.
Because does anybody think that those 12-year-old girls that Warren Jeffs approached didn't have a witness from God and the Holy Ghost that they should sleep with the prophet? Am I wrong?
Well, what I think is interesting about you bringing up the Warren Jeffs story is that this cartoon can absolutely be used by that religion as well.
It will be. Yeah.
Right? So, and so if we're so narcissistic to think, well, of course you should be able to tell if Warren Jeffs is lying to you, but President Nelson is not, we have some confirmation bias to deal with. Right. And I don't think we're wanting to do that work. We're not wanting to do that work. Okay. So then the next
this cartoon is something you should just laugh at, because when I saw the cartoon and it was sitting there like, sometimes God asked Joseph to take another wife, it made him really sad because he loved his wife Emma so much. I just laughed. I was like, yeah, that's just hilarious.
I didn't know a whole lot of the stories of who and how and when he had sex with them. And I actually appreciated the Mormon Stories episode where they got into that this week, because I wasn't ever going to take the time to sit and go through them. Although I guess they just basically were hashing through Dan Vogel's old work, and Dan Vogel was there correcting them all through it. So maybe I should have gone back and watched Dan Vogel's and appreciated his work more rather than them just hijacking it. But there's so many different stories of so many different women. You're just like, whoa, whoa,
like,
whoa.
A lot of it comes from that Temple Lot case, right? Where they're trying to find out like who was the rightful successor, like who actually owns a Temple Lot. So which of these groups is Joseph Smith's rightful successor? And one of the big things they hinged on was polygamy, right? And like, did he really practice polygamy? And so while he was alive, it was always like, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. We don't talk. And then they get all these women, they trot all these women out. Okay, you got to tell them you banged the prophet. Okay, you got to tell them that. And it's hilarious because then Brian Hales uses that to like any woman who wasn't on that list. He's like, we don't know if he had sexual relations with her. It's like, there's no written confirmation that he had sexual relations with her. It's like, you know what? There's like no written confirmation that I've had sexual relations with my wife. Like maybe my kids aren't mine. Who knows?
Yeah.
You don't know. There's no.
You want to know what though?
It's the default.
Nemo played the role of he was going to be hardcore, and unless there was like really obvious stuff, it was going to not count.
Like he had a secret wedding ceremony with him. Like that feels pretty obvious.
So these are the ones they counted. If you see it right here, this is their screen. Joseph Smith's Pearl lives, total number, underage, evidence for sexuality 1, possible evidence for sexuality 0, no evidence for sexuality 1. Women who were already married, 14 of them. One of the things that was trippy about it is that like 12 of the first 17 were polyandrous. So it's like he didn't get into the non-married ones until later.
The polyandrous ones are hilarious too with Brian Hales because his whole thing is like they weren't having sexual relations at the same time is the thing, because I don't he tries to separate it out, and as the walls close in, it like his narrative on it closes in, and it's hilarious because I'm like, how far apart do they have to be? Is it like an 8-day grace period? Like, okay, you banged her 8 days ago, now I can bang her? Or is it just like you can't spit roast her? That's the only thing. Is if we're doing a wobbly H, that God says no, but like you get her tonight and I'll get sloppy seconds tomorrow.
Yeah, so but look, they stayed with hardcore nose on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I think I know what that is.
It's an Eiffel Tower. It's a spit roast. They have a
You
lot
haven't heard of
names.
the Eiffel Tower?
No, I've heard of
Yeah.
spit roast and Eiffel Tower. I haven't heard of wobbly H.
Oh, I haven't heard of wobbly H. What's the wobbly H?
It's the same thing. It's
I just put it
Why
together.
is it wobbly?
Because you're
it's
fucking.
people.
Like you're you want me to illustrate it?
Yes.
It's
Okay.
no.
Here you go.
A wobbly H is
Got
a
one dude
spit
right
roast
here.
but everybody's
There's a
fat.
girl right here, and then there's another dude right here. It's an H, but they're gonna be wobbling, you know.
Starting with Blue Meanie says starting with the
I think
married
it's
ones is a
funny
dominance
that,
move versus win.
Bill Neal and RFM think they're doing the After Dark show.
Or it says the Jacob part's coming up on Culture's show. Should we tune in live? I got the Maven stuff next. Anyway, there's the stats right there. But that whole episode was a decent episode. But I guess they were pulling from like 3 or 4 of Dan Vogel's old episodes. So go watch the Dan Vogel ones if you want to get the originator of digging that crap up.
So wait, what's the Jacob part of Culture show? Like he's got Jacob on?
Because he's got Michelle Stone on. And
I
they're probably talking about her
I was gonna say
out of the debates with.
What I was gonna
I
say
think
is
she did dodge out of the debates.
Saying the Jacob part is coming up on Culture's show. You can say it pretty much any given day.
Culture's show is coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although he said he tried to have no Jacob February or something like that. Coach brought up Flip on Mormonism Live.
Yeah. And he quoted me correctly. That was good.
Try to find truth together. The problem with a debate, in a conversation, you both should ideally be open to hearing something, learning something more, learning something about a perspective. And
I think Jacob's open enough.
It is.
Well, yeah, it's just what she's saying is so stupid.
A sports match. You both have your champion and both teams are just winning. Go. And so there's nothing to be learned from either side, right? And I think that the value in engagement is learning.
Yeah, there is. Each side has it's
winning.
for the
So
audience.
If Jacob debated an ex-Mormon, say like he decided to accept Colby Reddish's challenge to debate about the historicity of the Book of Mormon, what's likely to happen is that the ex-Mos are going to root for Colby and they're going to think that he wins, and the Mos are going to root for Jacob and they're going to think that he wins. And it's, in my opinion, no matter how it goes,
You might as
that's
well
gonna
have a
be it.
judo match, like a wrestling match, like Jacob and Jacob also did. Which I'm like, how does that tell us anything about if Joseph practiced polygamy?
It doesn't, but it did tell us
The duel. Go back to the duel. But the woman all along was a 2025 feminist, even though it was 1300 France.
that Jacob Isbell was better at judo or whatever than Jacob Hansen.
I
That was
agree.
good. Yeah, that was
Jacob
good.
Isbell is a good egg.
let me
I
throw-
like him a lot.
Yeah, he's all right. Him and I have talked a little bit. We might try to do something together too. I dig his beard. His beard
Isn't
is
he
great.
also
He's a
a
lot of fun.
polygamy denier?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, let me throw
He's
up
a
a couple of
polygamy
these super
denier, and he
chats again.
also canceled.
Answer, don't answer.
He canceled Risto. He didn't let Risto continue speaking. And I guess Risto's been canceled off of Mormonism Live too and stuff.
What?
Let's say something in the
Totally
chat.
up
What
to
should we
you, 'cause
say?
There's some questions for you. So EJS said, if Joseph believed in polygamy, then
Mm-hmm.
why didn't he include it in his scripture? And then what does the Book of Mormon say
What should
about
I say?
it? And most people would go to Jacob too.
What
probably,
about that
for
scrape?
their opinion on that.
Yeah.
But I know your opinion on Jacob.
Well,
Jacob
and
too,
can I
not
just
Jacob
share
Hansen.
something really quick? You
Yeah,
can tell
you
me if
bet.
you ever want me to not go off, but really quickly, like the Book of Mormon, this is what I think is so interesting is that the Book of Mormon
I know she has some sort of
talks
answer for
about
this
many
scrape.
wives and concubines 5 times. It uses the term exactly many wives and concubines, and another time it just refers to many wives and concubines. Each time it
There's forest in there,
absolutely
isn't it?
condemns and forbids many wives and concubines, right? In no uncertain terms. And then we get 132, where in verse 1, it says, inasmuch of you as you have asked of the practice and doctrine of having many wives and concubines. It actually calls it
I
the
think
thing that the Book of Mormon
Joseph
condemns. Isn't that interesting? And
only did
so
oral.
anyway, I just think that is very true. He tried to claim that it was when Joseph Smith was doing the retranslation of the Bible that he was like, oh, wait, this is interesting. Abraham had many wives and concubines.
That's how they
Why can't
painted
I?
it in those new kid cartoons, right?
Yes. Oh, don't get me started on those. But
I know.
but what's so interesting is
The poop
they
hole
didn't have
loophole.
access to
Loophole,
the
loophole.
revised Bible because Emma,
God's
somebody
blind
wrote them despite them
spot.
You guys are talking about my
and
great
threatening her
great
to get
aunts,
it.
you know.
He
Oh,
kept that
sorry.
secret.
Sorry.
So now we see that actually in the Bible, Joseph Smith strengthens condemnation against David repeatedly. Anytime the Bible says something positive about David, Joseph Smith clarified that no, actually,
Well,
David had a lot of
bitch.
problems and wasn't
All right.
actually a good guy. Like if I think the reason that the Brigham Young and
Yes,
the
they're not
historians
one.
really wanted that Bible is
Let's
so
go
that they
to
can
Maven.
alter it like they altered the other records. Because if Joseph
Oh
was doing
man, are you starting Maven? I might make
No.
that my cue to leave, and 'cause
No,
I'll
the
lose my
Maven's the
mind.
that's the last one. Just the Maven. You just got Maven's it, and you made the whole show really. Then
Well,
we can
because
just
isn't
stick
this going to
around.
be a big one? You said it's
Well, just probably because we'll comment on a lot, but the entire time frame is like 15 minutes.
alrighty. I can handle it.
On the opposite side of being an accuser of someone multiple times in my life. And so, of course, as a victim, I want to believe all victims. On the other hand, I've seen situations like this happen as well. And so, and I've seen the reputations of good people, not just men, but good people, really be hurt and ruined from spurious accusations.
No way.
So it is a difficult sort of conundrum. But what I always want to bring up is when if we're talking about SA, if we're not talking about harassment or anything like that, if we're talking about full on SA, that the records and the statistics from the organizations who study abuse and reporting, if a woman comes forward with a claim, or we should just say a victim because it can be men too, right? If a victim comes forward with a claim and they say something out loud publicly, or they make an outcry to someone, the statistics show that less than 6% of those claims are false claims. And if somebody reports it to law enforcement, that number drops down to 3%. So while I know that there is a contingent of people,
We've said it before, I'll say it again. No, that is not true. Not true at all. We've brought up this video from Aiden Paladin where she dives into the numbers.
Yeah. The true number for reports to police of false accusations is closer to like 60%.
Yeah.
It's
it could be, if you wanted to do it as loosely as they do things, you could make it up to 70%.
Yeah, if you're talking about mutual abuse, is that what you mean?
No, just of what's dubious.
Yeah.
The
like the stuff that's for sure false is like, I can't remember what she said, but it's way above 2. That's like proven false.
Yeah, I've got the.
But unverifiable is like 70%.
Unverified. Well, yeah, well, that's just it. Is that
that there's no reason for a woman to lie about rape? Like, yes,
God.
there is.
That was when Sam Harris truly died. Well, he died when he wrote that god awful free will book, but he really died during the Kavanaugh shit, when he said, "What possible motivation could Christine Blasey Ford have to lie about this?" What?
I can't think of anything.
You're not that stupid.
Of 32% between 1988 and 1997. I can't go into more detail about that particular report because it is locked behind ProQuest, which only people with active university accounts can access. Very cute, by the way. Thus, I am citing the information secondhand from Turvey and McGrath, 2011. From everything that I have seen and read, I would say that the actual likely occurrence rate of false accusations of SA lies somewhere between 8% and 41%, which is so wide of a gap as to be functionally useless. It's also the statistic that Turvey and McGrath arrived at in their own review, and based on the research that we've looked at here today. For the sake of argument, let's throw in those silly 2% estimates. And we're now sitting at false reporting falling somewhere between almost never and almost half of all allegations, broadly speaking. How anyone could look at the wealth of research on this subject and publish something as disingenuous as the Enliven Project's graph, which to this day gets circulated around on social media as unquestionable proof and fact, is patently absurd. Scholars like some, but clearly not all of these that we've looked at, seem to have a point to make, hence their adherence to that 2% statistic, even when it makes no sense from their own data.
And then she goes into stuff here around the 1 hour and 3 minute mark about what could be the reasons. And there's actually extensive detail about the reasons of why.
A better way to describe how we should handle allegations instead, then,
This is believe the victim. Like, don't just say believe the victim, which is something that Maven repeats.
Go for it. Admitted to little to no mutual abuse and generally just sounded more like a movie script than reality. It's why the phrase believe all victims is absurdist, because not all victims are victims. A better way to describe how we should handle allegations instead, then, is that we should listen to all alleged victims, because when you listen to the things that someone claiming to be a victim really has to say when describing their victimization, they will often give themselves more than enough rope to hang their claims by.
They like want you to treat everybody like somebody that you trust, right? Like, because if my sister came to me and told me that she was assaulted, like, I would believe her because she doesn't have a history of lying. She's an honest woman. She's great. I'd probably believe her, right? But in cases like, I mean, the first time I heard the John DeLynn Rosebud thing, I didn't like John DeLynn, but my first answer to that was, I don't know, because I don't know these people. I don't know how often they lie and stuff. And then obviously you dig into it and you're like, yeah, they just had an affair and she's pissed like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where to go?
Something to keep in mind. Specifically, Dr. Savino and Turvey provide a list of red flags for investigators to be aware of when dealing with accusations of assault. Those being, number 1, women. Just kidding. But for real, number 1, initiation of the report or pressure to report by someone other than the complainant herself. For example, a spouse, parents, intimate partner, friend, coworker.
A bishop. This gets into the stuff where those bishops who came out and said you got to start pushing and coercing people to make police claims out of stuff and that sort of deal. They could be a problem if it's not real.
Supervisor, hospital staff, etc., unless the victim is unable to report or is too young to represent him or herself. 2, the complainant is unable to say where the sexual assault occurred or locate it even when pressed, when nothing would appear to prevent her from being able to do so. For example, no blindfold, no drugs, or alcohol to impair memory. 3,
Christine Blasey Ford, where did this happen? I don't.
When did this happen? I don't actually recall. Can any of your friends verify this? Yes. friends. We don't know what she's talking about.
Where was it? Somewhere.
The attacker is provided when descriptions of other parts of the crime are more detailed. 4. While able to discuss details before and after the alleged assault, the complainant avoids answering specific questions about the attack by crying hysterically, becoming angry without provocation, or engaging in other deflective behaviors. 5. The complainant appears to be interested in something other than reporting the SA.
That's
For
the
example,
stuff that
changing
John Delaney. So I did that episode way back forever on the null hypothesis and how you are supposed to be, when you are dealing with the legal system in the U.S., able to listen to people and maintain a null hypothesis, which is the science. Do the science. You can say, I'm going to listen with an open mind and not come to a conclusion at the start. And of course, we'll hear Maven say multiple times that that's some sort of evil, which is her thing that she's claiming is the evil that would create an authoritarian society and tear it down and destroy it. I brought this up a million different times, but I remember the night that John Larson said we didn't have with them, Flip. We were getting into him about the Blackbird, was it the Blackstone principle, and about this exact concept. We were arguing about it around a poker table, and it was a friendly at that time because we didn't think John was a commie yet,
in housing, disability payments, attention, or lawsuits. 6. The report of the SA serves to provide as an alibi of some kind. 7. Reconstruction of the physical evidence is at odds with the story of the victim. For example, a lack of defensive injury when a significant struggle is reported, the attacker is reported to have broken in through windows that are screwed or painted shut, damage or evidence transferred to the complainant's clothing is not present, with the reports of pulling, dragging, or tearing. 8. Injuries sustained by the complainant are consistent with known patterns of self-inflicted injuries.
That's what Mark does. He does that, and then oh shit, and then the cops come and then the police think that William Peterson, the guy from CSI, means business. Shit.
9. The complainant's details are similar to information seen commonly in movies and or on television. For example, abduction on a busy street by masked suspects.
I think this was even before. This came out before the what's her name? Oh, come on, what's her name? E. Jean Carroll thing, where her claim about Donald Trump, which of course Maven brings up, her claim about Donald Trump mimics an exact, I think it was like a CSI TV show or something like that, or a Law and Order TV show, like down to the T.
Suspects via a van. So, with this information in mind, and knowing what kind of red flags to be aware of when differentiating real cases from false ones, it's time to finally ask the question, why? Why do people lie?
If you can believe E. Jean Carroll's story, I've got a podcast for you. It's Michelle Stone's podcast, and you'll be really convinced by stuff. You'll be very, very convinced by
about having been attacked in one of the most horrific and violative ways imaginable, and who tends to lie about such a crime.
Nobody, Sam Harris. Nobody does.
What I believe we need to understand in more detail, which we've discussed somewhat already, is this. Why make false
But even though
accusations?
Sam Harris is on the right side of history about this, he's still canceled, right? Why is he canceled? Because he had on
Douglas Murray,
and also he was mean about the Muslims.
Oh yeah.
At all. For Potiphar's wife, who accused Joseph in the biblical tale, her reasoning was revenge against the young man for rejecting her romantic advances. In addition to revenge, Savino and Turvey identified several reasons why one might make a false report, including profit, be it the result of a lawsuit or in the form of sympathy and charity from others, crime concealment, either by lying about the true perpetrator of the act in order to protect them from punishment, or by claiming to be a victim of abuse when a suspect in another criminal act in an attempt to deflect blame,
Political
concealment of illicit
heroism,
activities,
could that
describing
be in
consensual
there?
behavior as non-consensual after the fact to hide one's complicity in the act, and mitigation of responsibility, which similarly to concealment of impropriety refers to situations wherein any criticism of the individual is deflected from them by claiming victim status. The final reason for false report is mental defect, in which cases a fabricated claim is made either as a
Gen Camp
cry for help or because of mental illness that could produce false or inaccurate memories. The latter was perhaps the case for Catherine M. Clifton, who accused her college professor of abuse, only for her lawyer to say in court, after investigators found absolutely no evidence to substantiate her claims, that her bizarre behavior, including forging the signature of a judge to show as evidence to her friends and fellow classmates that she had won her case at court, was because Clifton had in fact been assaulted by her grandfather when she was just a child. Her grandfather was actually convicted of the crime that she had levied at her professor. More egregious, however, is the case.
Well, maybe that is what's happening in Gen Camp, because they try to justify her doing all this stuff because she must have certainly had the bad childhood and all that sorts of stuff. But this is just wild. It's wild to listen to them for 15 minutes, try to tie themselves up in knots, the same way Exmo Joe ties himself up in knots about how to reconcile. The same way, I mean, it's all tying up in knots, right? The same way that they try to tie themselves up in knots about consent and where that gets lost when it turns over onto the other things that they're trying to push in their sexual freedom world. You know, it's all tied up in knots. It's everything is scrambled.
Who continue to talk about false reporting and victims, you know, not believing all victims. And there are situations where false allegations are made, as was the case in this situation, I believe. We do need to believe victims because
it's nice that
believe victims. There's that phrase.
It's really nice that I was so worried when Jen Camp accused John Dehlin of sexual harassment, because I was like, oh no, not my guy, not my guy. It's really a huge relief to find out that he is one of the 2% of false allegations.
Wow, it just turned out that my guy is one of the 2%ers.
Twice in a row.
They give advice here on what we should do if we're ever falsely accused. You think it's good advice?
Is
84% of the time, those allegations turn out to be true allegations. We also should talk about the fact that the reason for a lot of people not coming forward and reporting things is because of the stigma against people speaking up and saying something and behind the false allegations. So I want to make room to honor all of the different situations that are here.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up a comment from Garrick. He says he disagrees with me. I don't think we actually disagree, but I think you're providing a good clarifying point. It does seem that in general, and I don't know, because Mormonism is really, really white based, but I should have maybe clarified it is white men. And I do see that, because I think when it comes to biases and
this is their double down. The comment says, I don't agree to Maven with that. White men do. Anyone of a minority in Utah gets the blame a whole lot more, even for walking the streets.
Oh, Christ.
racial profiling. If a man is considered, if a man is anything off-white, I guess, whether
I saw a joke
or
by that. I think he's an Italian guy. Have you seen that dude? He had. I think Christopher sent us the joke. Did you see it? It was. He said, "Babies are born not racist, and someone has to teach them to read crime statistics."
I haven't. So what does this do to our 2%, right? Because what we're saying here is that this is a white man problem, right? So that means that the majority of that 2% would ostensibly be men of color, right? So what does that put white men at? Which John Dehlin is a white man. That would put him in the 0.5% of accusations leveled against white men.
The single most unlikely innocent person, and it happened to be John Dehlin.
What happened? It happened twice, and one of those included a letter penned by 19 women agreeing with it and stuff like that. So flip a coin, and if it stands on its side 19 times in a row, then that's the likelihood in their purview in their paradigm of John Dehlin being innocent all these times.
Yeah.
Indigenous.
Well, I guess they just looked. They looked out. They got the right guy. Lucky them. Lucky them.
Or Hispanic, and especially if the victim.
I saw on. I think I have the post of it somewhere, that Stephen Smoot was saying on some page that because John Dehlin, did you do the survey? Did you do the transparency survey for Mormon Stories?
I looked at it. I didn't do it.
You didn't do it? It only takes 10 minutes, but it's all kind of obvious stuff. It's stuff we know. Is did they tell you about the treasure hunting? No. I mean, we all know the answer is no. I don't think the survey needs to be done, really. You know what I mean? But
I think they should have told you about the treasure hunting, because that's so much more dismissible than a lot of the shit that he did. Because they always try to. I remember when I was learning all this stuff, they're like, well, Joseph Smith never claimed to be a perfect man. I was like, okay, the only story I heard growing up of him being anything other than perfect was when he asked God 3 times if he could show proof to Martin Harris's wife. And he felt so bad about that, because it was such a bad thing to do. It's like, see, he never said he was perfect. It's like, okay, well, there was some other things, that were probably a little worse.
Well, the reason they have to do the survey is because, if Cardin Ellis and Jacob Hansen take the survey, they'll be like, yeah, no, it's all on the gospel topic essays. It's not hidden at all.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. So that's. I mean, obviously they do that, but that survey is just. I mean, maybe they have to do the obvious, just to show people the obvious. Scott Adams, I guess 2 points from Scott Adams. He kind of constantly jokes, has a thing every single day of like, you want to know how you could have saved money on this scientific study? You could have just asked me. You know, it's one of his running jokes every single morning.
That's one of my favorite things in the world because I used to do that all the time. I would read a study and I'd be like, oh, the new study shows that jogging every day is healthier than not jogging every day or something. And I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so glad we spent a lot of money studying that.
But one of his other points, which goes in line with this, and John DeLynn should know this, and John DeLynn, one of the reasons he doesn't get very much sympathy from me is because he's piled on other people. And I think every single person who is in these positions should have a little bit more of an oversight and graciousness for other people, because every single person out there, like even Neil Gaiman and everything, I hold the null for those guys of what it is or not. I don't just believe outright the claims that you hear about people. They're just are what they are. But I wouldn't say now you can't write a book and we can't read your book now because of this, because you had sex with a 20-year-old. You know, I wouldn't ever say that. But one of the things Scott Adams frequently says is every single celebrity you know has more than 10 or 15 false accusers that you just don't know of. He says, I had one, this lady came to my house. I've never met her. I've never even met her. And trust me, I believe this stuff. I know women can get super nutty and start hounding and stalking you like you wouldn't believe. I've seen it a few times in my life.
I might have told this story before, but so like when I was like 14, 8th grade, I had a group of friends. And there was this one girl. We'll call her Kara. Just kidding. We'll call her Jane. And like she was just one of the group of friends, right? And I would talk to her on the phone a lot. And she was screwed up and came from a screwed up family. And like there was one night, like, you know, this is like I said, when I was like 14, 15, 8th grade. And like one day she's like, I'm in love with you. And I was like, no, you're not. Like, we don't even see each other. We talk on the phone. Like, get your head out of your butt. I was kind of a dick about it, but I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, come on. And I didn't see her, like, because, you know, we went to different high schools. And when I was 19, I worked, you know, I had a job at the airport. And like one of the girls, like, because I briefly went to the same high school as hers for 3 months, and then we went to different high schools in the 10th grade, right, or 9th grade, whatever. I don't know how it works. 10th grade, yeah. And she's like, "Oh, do you still see Jane?" I'm like, "Jane? I haven't seen Jane in 3 years." She's like, "Weren't you guys dating?" And I'm like, "No, we never dated." And she's like, "She said that you guys were sleeping together and that you beat her."
Oh my
And I'm like,
God.
I have not spoken to her in 3 years. I haven't seen her in 4 years. But like literally like that, just like that. Just like, because I was going to a different school. It was the time before the internet, you know? And like she created this whole fantasy world that she told people this whole thing about us, and it's just total fabrication. Like, you know, it fucking happened to me. Like,
yeah. I've had 3 or 4 stalkers, but I haven't had any like wild false accusation yet. But I ran into one girl one time. This isn't even a stalker, and she just was like looking at me all night, and then finally started saying to me, "You and I dated in high school." And I goes, "No, we didn't." Like, no, we did. You and I dated. I can't believe you don't remember. I go, "No, we did not." And she was just insistent and insistent and insistent on it. I'm like, I did not know you in high school. And she was insistent that we dated for a while. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I think like there's the list of things that feminists say is just standard for them. Like things that I have never done but have happened to me. Like I have sent 0 dick pics in my life. I've been asked for them, but I didn't comply. And I have received unsolicited pictures of vaginas. I didn't need those.
Here's my vagina.
Like, yeah, no, just like, I mean, all this crap, like it's happened to me. A woman once took an unauthorized photograph of me naked. I fucking took her digital camera and I'm like, I said, I'm gonna break this if you don't tell me how to delete this. But like, she fucking, when I wasn't looking, snapped a picture of me, like, and I don't have that much action. And like in my meager little sex life, I've had stalkers, You know, that happened to me. I've had women falsely accuse me. It's like, Jesus Christ. And then hear these feminists say like, oh, this is just life for women.
I was told by like several feminists a few times. Like one of them, I got into a big argument with, and she was like you don't know how common this is. Every woman in your life has received an unsolicited dick pic. And I was like, okay, I'll be right back. I texted my wife, my mom, and my sister. I was like, Morgan, you ever got a dick pic that you didn't want? She's like, well, you've sent me pictures of your balls as a joke before. And I was like, okay, yeah, but like that's fucking hilarious because balls are gross. And she's like, yeah, but other than that, no. And my mom was like, what in the hell are you talking about? And my sister was like, ew, no.
So I'm going to go out on a
But
limb
they
on
don't
this
feel
one.
safe
Although I
talking
have
to-
asked around plenty to a lot of different girls, the dick pic stuff happens. It's
Oh,
real.
yeah, it does happen.
I actually know this dude in a band like around here who's famously a deal sick pic sender, and we all kind of tell him to knock it the hell off, and he just keeps doing it. And you want to know why the guy does it? Because it works. Like he gets women out of it, you know.
Does
But
it actually work?
It works
really?
for him, yeah.
I think every awful thing that men do.
Oh, that's
I
such
think
an
it
indictment
works
on women.
enough of the time that's why they do it. Well, Chris, didn't you once fire a guy who inadvertently sent
Oh
the dick
yeah,
pic
to his
the
boss.
and not he got his text mixed up, and instead of sending it to his girlfriend, he sent it to his
100%.
Oh God,
100% accident too. I felt bad for the dude. It probably would have been like on the up and up, you know, because he was just trying to do it with his girlfriend.
Yeah,
But he
yeah.
sent it to his boss on accident, you know. Yep, it happens, man.
White woman, it seems like white will be believed first, even if it's a woman, before.
So this is just not true. Like maybe these assertions, just like the assertions everywhere. Like this is just not true. Whites will be believed first. You're just asserting this out of your ass.
Person of color, even if it's a man. And again, I'm just speaking generally. And I do think that's what I am saying, and I do think statistics bear that out. And I just, in fact, in
No,
general,
they don't.
when it
You
comes
think?
to, you know, especially early on, the idea of a
Oh, I didn't get to the ultimate conclusion of those statistics, which is the thing that you can always say to people when they bring it up, because it's hard to remember like 40% or 70% or something like that. But here's what the actual truth is: it's very, very few. Just like the O.J. Simpson. I just watched all the O.J. Simpson stuff again. I can't believe like every 5 years, there's the entire O.J. Simpson story again, and then in 5 years it'll come out again. But
well, Trump's opening up the OJ files, so.
Oh boy, is that real?
No, I'm just being a dork.
There's so much extra stuff each time I listen to it too, but there's only like 2, 3, 4, 5% of any crime that gets absolutely proved on one end or the other of that. Everything is only 5 or 6% proved or unproved. Everything else is in the hazy middle. That's the stats on everything. Everything is in the hazy middle. Think of what we know about Joseph Smith. That's every single case ever. Every single case ever is what we know about Joseph Smith. Hazy middle. We don't really know very well. There's some things that might lead one way. There's some things that might lead another way.
Is it kind of so? My guess on the dick pic issue, because I know it happens. I've talked to people that it's happened to, but it's the feminists will extrapolate that and tell me that every woman in my life has had that happen to them, and that part's not true. Is it kind of like how when they talk about how men commit all the violent crime, and then you realize that it's like the same 2% of men?
Oh, yeah,
commit
100%.
all the,
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's got to be like the
yeah.
same like 8 dudes that are sending out.
I hate to tell it to you too, though. You want to ask them
for dick pics for sure.
You want to ask them who's sending it. Do you want to ask them? Do you want to get into that? Because there might be a certain bell curve. And I've heard of what the bell curve is, and it's not what you might think. It's not the 13%. It's more the H1Bers.
Yeah, no, I've had those. Okay, I've had unsolicited dick pics from them before.
A black man with a white woman is something that really just got white men specifically extremely worked up. And if you watch even on Mormon Stories, the series that we did on Second Class,
We brought back forever ago the thing of Kavanaugh getting upset and the whole world getting mad at him, getting upset and making fun of him, getting upset, and then Matt Damon going live talking about Harvey Weinstein, saying that if anybody ever accused him of something, he'd go scorched earth. As if Maven wouldn't go scorched earth if she was falsely accused of something. God, you're fucking dipshit. You're so fucking dumb.
Saints, which is all about black racism in the church. That was like a predominant thing. That's always why they've been against interracial.
They talk about all this stuff like they have so much empathy, and it usually seems like guys like Exmo Joe are going to be on that side until they get accused, right? And every once in a while, even those guys still stay on that side. Like Destiny, like where's Destiny going to come out on the other side of all this stuff? Is he still going to come out still being full male feminist type shit? But
his are so damning, man. That everybody keeps playing that clip of him talking about how, like, oh, I'm 28 and a 19-year-old. I mean, that's disgusting. She might as well be 15. That's how gross that is.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later.
Here's empathy for you, because we keep seeing, I just saw you talk on Facebook of somebody saying, I'm going to keep being woke because woke means being kind to people who are different than you. No, it doesn't, because people who are different from you are MAGA, and you call them maggots, Jim Bennett. Like those are people who are different from you, and you don't have any empathy or kindness for them. But I have never been accused. I have never been accused of any impropriety in my entire life. And this stuff outrages me. I've been in situations where I got to be the judge on some of these situations in certain ways, you know, a lot. That's been my calling, to be one of many judges, because it's never just one person judging on stuff, but you have to make a decision for a company or something like that. And I have empathy for people who go through this shit. I even have empathy for ones who kind of get caught in the middle of shit, you know, that even stuff did happen and it was more than they should have or wanted to let happen, but it happened.
Well, and by the way, like, people generally do believe the victim. Like, you're talking about these high-profile cases where people have a stake in who the winner is and who it is. Like, because if
never once has a person come into me and I started off assuming, well, the other guy's white. No, like, no, it's okay. What is it? Let's. I buckle up and I clear my mind. I don't sit there and say, holy shit, I'm ready to believe you. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that like if Trump is accused of this, there's two types of people. There's like people who are motivated to believe that he's innocent and people who are motivated to believe that he's guilty. And before they hear anything at all about that, they're already right there. But most cases like this, most of these, like the false accusations, people just believe the victim. They seriously do. Like, yeah. I mean, it's happened at work last year.
Especially with celebrities.
Yeah. Well, this guy at work, all of a sudden he wasn't there one day, and we're inside the cafeteria where we're not allowed to have our phones or whatever. And one of the guys comes up and they're like, oh, Bill was accused. That's not his real name. Bill was accused of having sex with a 16-year-old. And everybody in me, and these are all not redneck, but, you know, blue collar MAGA dudes. And they're all like, fuck that guy, man. You don't need a trial. Let's just put a bullet in him. And I always knew there was something funny about Bill. It's like, no, you didn't. And I was like, hang on a second. There's a guy we work with that we talked to. We don't know anything. None of us have our phones. We haven't read anything about it. Let's get back and talk about it. And we go back into the break trailer later, and I'm looking up the story on it. And it's the story is this, and I feel bad for the guy because I don't know if it's true or not, but like the story was that he diddled this 16-year-old girl while her siblings were in the room, but they were wearing VR headsets, and the mom is the one that like pushed her to. From what I read, it sounds like the mom really doesn't like this guy, and she pushed the daughter to kind of
make the claim.
Yeah, make the claim. And I'm like, fuck, that has one
dubious.
Of those. Yeah, that's one of those hallmarks. And I'm like trying to talk everyone down. Like, look, we don't know anything. There's a presumption of innocence here. Let's hold on a second. It could very well have happened, or maybe it didn't, or whatever. And you read the guy's like the transcript of what he said to the cops, and he's like begging them to let him take a lie detector test, you know. And I was just like, fuck, I don't. You might be innocent, but it doesn't matter if you're innocent. Like this dude, it's over. Like his life here is over. Like he's still technically employed because his trial hasn't come by yet. But if he gets proven innocent in the trial, he can come back to work. He's not going to. Like people, like half the people there think he's a rapist.
Like even if you're cleared, you're never really cleared. I mean, like Woody Allen.
Well, and this guy's ex-wife, who hates his guts, is saying no, he didn't fucking do this. and still you
Yeah.
get everybody like jumping on that. So people believe the victims, like to a
No,
fault.
Woody Allen's like his lawyers, the prosecution, and the judge all hired independent psychological evaluations of the girl that accused Woody Allen, and they all said that Mia Farrow coerced her, that it was made up, and that it was Mia Farrow coached her into making the accusation. And like that's all come out, you know, it came out 30 years ago, but that doesn't help Woody Allen at all, you know. But then of course he did marry his stepdaughter, so that's a little strange. But
that is
Yeah,
weird.
that's the thing that made it rough for me.
Well, but that's the other thing though, where it's like, I mean, it is strange, but it's not as strange as people say, because like he never raised her, like,
Yeah.
and you know she was an adult when they got together, you know. So like, as weird as it is, it's still not as weird as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Mia Farrow is probably a crazy bitch that tried to ruin his life because he didn't want to be married to her anymore.
There's this pretty good movie with Mads Mikkelsen, this one called The Hunt. If you ever want to watch a movie that's kind of a little bit like Doubt, you brought up Doubt this week with Steve's comic. The Hunt's a lot like The Doubt. This is a guy who gets accused of doing stuff to kids, and it's real hard to tell if it's one way or the other, and putting yourself in that situation, you know, because you don't know if it's one way or the other. So anyway, back to this, all that stuff, man. It's so ridiculous. You should be able. I mean, it's one of the things I preached forever ago, and John DeLynn should have offered it to others, especially being someone who'd gone through it, to put yourself in the knoll, put yourself in a position of you're going to listen, but you know, there's some sort of other term for it instead of listen and believe. Listen and
trust but verify.
Trust but verify. Yeah.
Racial marriage, and that was also why they really fought having men inviting black people to BYU. That's like, it's literally there in letters, like black and white, where, you know, men would say like, I don't want my daughter to meet and marry a black man. So anyway, so I appreciate Garrett for bringing that point up.
I was going to bring it up again. There was a guy in my home ward who he ran a kindergarten right by my elementary school, a preschool, and my sister-in-law even worked there for extra money, so it even affected her. He got accused of diddling a kid. I was living in Vegas at the time, and I saw it on the news in Vegas. I saw his mugshot up there and all that sorts of stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh. He got 100%, 1,000% exonerated. The kid had been coached by his parents because they were trying to get money out of them. He had cameras on at all times at that places. Guess what happened to his business? Because this didn't go away overnight. You know, he lost his entire business. And he had 100% proofs of all that, had all the stuff documented, all the everything. Just took too much money, too much time, lost it all.
It is, generally speaking, if it's a white man, if he's got any.
And she gets into that in here. I think I have it in clip later, but she gets into like, oh, these guys, these white men, their lives are fine afterwards. She dead seriously says this.
As a business owner, as a church member, or politician, whatever his career is in general, he's going to have the benefit of the doubt. So yeah, thanks for bringing.
Oh, he is not.
That's not true.
No, he is not. Your assertion always.
Gian Gomeshi was totally exonerated. His accusers lied. You can read the judge's report. The judge was a woman, by the way. The judge fucking calls out the accusers saying, you guys lied. You guys colluded to destroy this guy. Gian Gomeshi never got his career back.
And he didn't have the benefit of the doubt.
And he never got
the
the
white
benefit
guy.
of the
He's
doubt.
got the benefit of the doubt. Garrison Cooler.
At the risk of sounding like Maven, you have no fucking empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are sociopathic even about this.
Bringing that up, Garrett. I'll go back to the video.
And I want to make sure that we are careful about that. And, you know, it's important to have the conversation on both sides. So it's difficult because I've seen both sides of it. You know, obviously what we're talking about here is a situation where somebody came forward with false allegations. And from me personally, you know, looking at this as an outsider, someone who's not employed by Mormon Stories, and, you know, certainly a fan of Mormon Stories, but at the time that I learned about this, you know, I had only been on one time. I think, you know, John and I wouldn't consider us friends at that
I mean, it's so rich. This is all coming out right in the midst of all that European rape gang stuff happening too. Like, do you imagine there's any like males, like white males in Europe in the past 15 years who actually got prosecuted for doing rapes? I bet there is. But there was some benefits of doubt given to certain bell curves.
Point, we weren't, communicating regularly or anything like that. So when I heard these allegations come up, I wanted to be one of those people that believes the accuser first, and then, let's see what information comes out.
Why? Because you're married to a stupid ideology. You're married to an ideology dumber than the LDS one that you think you're so smart for having left.
Well, I wanted to believe the accuser first, but then let's see what comes out. If you believe the accuser, then why would you have to wait to see what comes out? This is it's a special pleading thing because it's like, I believe the accuser. I believe the accuser no matter what. Oh my God, my guy was accused. Well, I still believe the accuser, but let's presume.
I don't want to get canceled by my viewers.
Yep. Believing the accuser and presumption of innocence are mutually exclusive.
And I listen to Radio Free Mormon reporting because even though I know that he and John are colleagues, they're friends on a level or whatever.
You give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a white male.
Mm-hmm.
He's also an attorney and, has some responsibility to be truthful and honest in his reporting.
That is not true of attorneys.
That's not true.
That is not true of attorneys. The attorneys are allowed to be biased as hell.
And so I was, as I listened to all of the different reports that came out and, some of the recordings that were made and read the court documents, it seemed really apparent to me that I think Jen was genuinely wounded by their interaction. But
by her own traumas and
what she brought to the relationship, right, to the working relationship, she brought in some of her own past experiences as well. So I think she was genuinely hurt by what happened. But I think that
I
said, Jen is wounded by a light breeze. My God, I hate to belabor this because I say it every time we talk about Jen. Dylan, if you've been accused of, like, that Rosebud lady had to have been pretty crazy, right? How can you not spot a histrionic the second she starts bawling during the job interview?
They mentioned in this that he got crap from a lot of people for his bad hiring processes. Because she starts out at the beginning, like what it was like working for Delenn, getting hired, how ticky-tacky and touchy they were through all this stuff. There's a lot of detail about that.
The shame of, not really getting the satisfaction that she wanted out of that interaction. I think she doubled down, and it seems to me as an outside observer, not knowing Jen, never met her before, but just looking at the facts and looking at what's been presented, it looks to me like that double down then turned into, let me just throw all of the arrows out into the world and see if I can hit somebody and that'll make me feel better. If I can at least make one arrow land, then I can reclaim.
It kind of sounds like you're not believing the victim right now. That's what this sounds like.
Shame.
This is your internalized misogyny speaking.
Shameful feeling that I have of not feeling validated, not feeling seen and heard. And I really think that's all this is. I think this is an effort on Jen's part to be seen and heard. Unfortunately, the message that she's trying to get heard is not a true message.
And it's harmful, ultimately.
It's harmful to other people, yeah.
I do think there's also an element of attempting to get some personal gain from it. I think because of John's reputation, there was an ask
a motivation
for,
for women to lie is personal gain? That's a thing that can happen on planet Earth today?
I cannot.
like a huge,
go on,
unreasonable settlement amount. That would have been pretty cushy.
How much was it, Gene?
I don't know. I can't remember. It seemed like I heard something like 30,000. I don't know.
Oh no, way more than that.
Okay.
And again, and I don't want to speak to things and be wrong or be misremembering because now this has been like a few years, but I want to say above 200,000.
Wow.
Which John knew, already speaking with his lawyers that he would probably if there was going to be a drawn out kind of court battle, he would be sunk that much anyway. And he was of a mind initially to go ahead and just pay it and just be done and be free and not go through the rigmarole because it's a lot. And and I was disappointed to hear that, when he was, saying that that's what he was thinking of doing and wanting, because I wanted him to stand up for himself and not let that happen. Not kind of
lambast the victim.
There's an easy way to get money out of John Delenn, by writing the coattails of other previous spurious allegations, and I think other friends of his too. I can't say specifically who I know. I suspect strongly a few probably said the same thing I did. We were all kind of were wanting John to fight for himself, But I also still wanted to respect his own time and money and mental health. So ultimately, it was his decision, and if that was the decision he wanted to make, and that those were the consequences that he wanted to choose for himself, that would have been fine. But I was happy. I think as a lot of of everyone else were happy that he still
don't know,
this on
Maven.
principle,
You're
like,
sounding a
to
lot
restore that
like
damage to his reputation that he didn't
us.
deserve. And again, like because she took it beyond the workplace disagreements to criminal allegations, to sexual harassment, and that's I would roll over for that, and I'm glad John didn't.
And if I can jump in and talk about where I was actually at that time, I had already been interviewed by Steve Pinecker. We did a show on my first Mormon History Association attendance.
He just says he
and my
wanted
first,
to believe her because
Sunstone.
she's a woman and he liked
so I was
having women
sort of
in the space.
starting
And interviews and stuff like this is really like interesting and unique case. But to start off at the beginning, I guess to apply it to other situations that any of us or our audience might face in their lives, I think there's nothing to be lost by believing the victim or accuser first, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I did, especially because of like John.
Yes, there is.
Hold on a sec. You just laid out the whole case for what is to be lost by automatically believing the victim or victim.
This text, like it did seem like he's the aggressor, he's the one in the wrong here, and Jen's the one who's been wrong, and that's where I was at the beginning until I got more information. I was on like Jen is the aggrieved, and I hope that they work this out. And I think for sure John understood that, and if there's ever a man in our audience that is facing something like this, where you are having false allegations against you, I highly recommend that you do and act as John did. First of all, like he kept his mouth shut, he didn't say anything, and I know that was really frustrating to people, and initially that caused a lot of people to believe her even more, which again is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There was not anything wrong with people who took Jen's side first. I want to make that very clear. And I supported that. I even had someone reach out to me, wanting to get more background information, some of which I just didn't have because this is between the two of them and I wasn't always there. So even when she started with these allegations, I didn't believe them, but it was always in my mind. Like, it's possible things happened that she just never told me and I didn't know about, and I wasn't there and I didn't see it. And now she's ready to talk about it because she's not employed there anymore. That was always a possibility. So, I had that opening, right? But anyway, when we see like these other kind of like serial abusers, Tim Ballard, Bill Cosby, Trump, even like these guys, Joseph Smith. Like if we go back to the beginning of Mormonism, when they had women coming out and accusing them, like they all had the same MO, which was to tear them down, destroy their reputation. They're sluts, they're liars. They're just trying to bring a good man down. They're jealous, hysterical women, or they're being paid off by other people, right? Because women can't have their own voices. Like there's a lot of people that'll be like they're part of somebody else's political plan to take someone down, right? Or for Tim Ballard, it's the pedophiles. It's all the pedophiles are trying to bring you
If
down.
a woman is calling you,
believe anyone has a legitimate accusation.
If a woman is lying about you, don't call her a liar.
Looks bad for you.
Against me, like that's how I'm moving you. That's their MO, right?
It's
and John did not do that,
defamation.
and you should not do that. In this situation, if you're ever on the receiving end of it, like John was. And you should understand.
But John did do that with what's her name, Buttercup. What's the other one? Rosebud.
Rosebud. Buttercup.
And
Buttercup's
I think
the next one.
Buttercup's the next one.
not resent people who might believe your victim first. Don't take it personally, right? Because like we get pointed out, like statistically, chances are they're right. And you might think, but I'm a good person. People should know I'm a good person. But see, but
no, they are not statistically.
This is so dogmatic. This is insane. Like if somebody on the other side of the world accuses me of rape and my sister comes up to me and says, "Look, I believe her. Don't take it personally, but I believe what she's saying automatically." I'm going to take it personally. Are you kidding me? That's insulting.
Predators know how to act like a good person.
I'm going to do Blackstone. I'll do Stone Black's theorem. And if anybody ever comes and says somebody raped somebody, I'm going to assume Maven did it.
To everyone else around them that they're not abusing too. So it's not a matter of like people not knowing you well enough that they should know, right? It's just we just can't know these things, and so and I think also on the side of things, I feel like the audience, the community in general did this. Even people who were initially believing Jen, a lot again still had this space for like I'm waiting for information. Like I'm willing to change depending on what comes out. Right now we've only got one side, so that's what I'm on. And if she's right, then shame on John. All of this stuff, but they didn't like. I think most people didn't go like full on like attack mode. He did do it. He absolutely, he is a predator. I believe Jen, and so like I'm gonna join this like rampage, without any evidence for me, like to back up any of this, right? You don't have to take it that far, right? Yeah. And again, I feel like the community overall did that. They were like, all right, we know Jen, John has this reputation. We believe Jen. We'll wait and see what happens. Yeah. All right. And
don't got to do it for Kavanaugh. Don't got to do it for
no.
Hold John accountable, like as things come out. And and that was smart. So I didn't resent. Again, I had a friend contact me directly, and she was great too because I did initially, I was just like I don't think any of these sexual allegations happen. And I had said, like, I never saw it. Right. And she's the one that pointed out, like, yeah, but that doesn't mean like it's not possible or didn't happen. So because she pointed that out to me, I made sure to be more careful in my speech to not say something like, John never did it because in front of me. Yeah. Anyway. And so I did appreciate that, but I couldn't give her more information, like to her satisfaction. So she said, like, okay, like, I'm going to believe Jen. I didn't. And I said I didn't, but I supported her in that. I said, I think that's the right decision with the information you have. And I support you. I think that's moral. I think you are doing the right thing. So, I think a lot of people maybe haven't thought of things that way. It just tends to go really black and white and like pick sides.
Right. And that's the thing that I always find problematic.
We don't want to go black and white.
The black and whiteiest people there.
That's one of the craziest things. The advice that she's giving is that, so everybody that works for John DeLynn when these allegations come out, believe Jen, but listen to the evidence, right? That's essentially what she's saying. Although she goes all over the fucking place on this.
Believe the victim, follow the evidence.
But then you're
it's
you're waiting for evidence,
proven innocent.
It is, but it's while you're waiting for evidence on this, you're employed by a rapist. Like in your mind, you're like, well, I'm still gonna keep working for him. That means you don't believe the victim. I mean, you not automatically.
Problematic about these situations is that we want things to be black and white. We want it to be easy, right? Yeah. We don't want there to be this gray, nuanced area that we maybe don't understand. That feels really unsafe. It feels a lot safer to us to be able to say the woman's right, the man is wrong, and to vilify that man, or the reverse, right? Depending on what the circumstances are. But as somebody who has been the victim of reputation destruction and who has had very close people to me be the victims of reputation destruction, it can be a really scary
reputation against destruction against more women. What do you think? Was it a man or a woman that destroyed her reputation?
It was either a woman or it was a man who said, "No, I didn't rape you," which is also a Christine Blasey Ford had her reputation destroyed by Kavanaugh. Ugh, poor Christine Blasey Ford.
And Donald Trump lost a defamation lawsuit because after the judge
he made E. Jean Carroll feel bad.
Yeah. The judge said Jean Carroll didn't rape you, and Trump publicly said that woman's crazy. I didn't rape her, and then he got hit for defamation.
Let's be nice to the false accuser now, there, Trump.
I think that
so ridiculous.
What you're saying is so true. When somebody comes out with some kind of an allegation against you, if you personally are the target of that the silence in the beginning, I think is really wise. Let the story play out how it's going to play out. And also know that people's opinion of you don't really have much to do with who you actually are because people don't really know you that well. Like nobody, even if we're close friends and we talk every day, there's still going to be things about you that I don't know. And my opinion of you is going to be based on the experiences that I've had with you, but also mostly the experiences I've had with other people in my past and my way of relating to myself as well. I think it was, now his name just went right out of my head. And he's a dude that I talk about all the time, Carl Jung, who says that we can learn a lot about ourselves by paying attention to what annoys us about other people. The traits that we find annoying in other people are the things we don't like about ourselves. And so, when people accuse us of doing things or they misunderstand us or they misinterpret things that we're saying, it doesn't really have a lot to do with us. And it's a far wiser position to just sit in your knowing of who you are and let people say about you what they will, because not everybody's going to like you. And especially if you're a person who is in the public eye.
Nobody likes me. They all think I rape. The sticks and stones can hurt my bones.
As this kind of a side note, this lady brought up, I always bring up Carl Jung. I'm like, okay, what's your opinion on Jordan Peterson? Like, what are the chances that she fucking hates Jordan Peterson?
I love that, Peterson wasn't the person who completely resurrected Jung from the grave, and now everybody's just like, we were always into Jung, man. We were all always into it.
We choose to put ourselves in the public eye. There are going to be people who don't like us, who say nasty things about us. And most of the time that has to do with their own opinions of themselves and not with anything that we've said or done.
Yeah. I also think that, as devastating as false allegations are, I mean, it would really crush me if, if I went through something similar like this and, to have, and it is scary, especially if it could affect employment and things. Again, not that you would have a record or anything because, ultimately didn't, but even just the gossip about that can be passed around about you. But I would still say that,
what are you talking about? You don't have a record. Lawsuits are public record. What are you talking about? The whole thing RFM read to us?
whatever damage I might suffer under false allegations is nowhere close to the damage that victims suffer, not just from what happened to them, but from not being believed.
A false allegation is a victim. That is a victim. That's a victim. Stupid. It's a victim.
You lose your whole society. Like you lose everyone who, like, there's going to be a couple people that stick around or whatever, but that guy I work with, if he's totally innocent and proven innocent, he loses his livelihood. He's not coming back to his job. His friends are gone. There's a few family members that I'm sure will stand by his side or whatever, but he's got to start over. He's got to go find a job somewhere, probably in a different state, and meet new people and hope they don't find out about this bullshit.
I'd say the obvious thing too is that it obviously makes things worse for actual victims as well.
Oh yeah.
I think the psychological damage is way more than my own psychological damage would be. And so I think for that reason alone, I think it's worth it to
She's doing the bike
again, like, prioritize victims.
You're doing that thing where you can empathize with the.
She's doing the bike cuck meme. Somebody stole my bike, but I have to assume they're probably happier with my bike than I am sad for losing it. So the overall happiness has gone up in the world. Whatever.
They completely crapped on my reputation for a false allegation, but if they were a victim, it would have been way worse for them. So I feel, for them.
Knowing that this will happen to some people, but ultimately, like, they are still not being as harmed, and it's
partly they fetishize the Handmaid's Tale victims in their heads so much. Like they walk around like that's the holy, Virgin Mary victim of society.
Important not to like leave victims behind in the dust, over reputations. And honestly, when people like talk about reputations being ruined and stuff, like they are for some people, but especially like if there's no conviction, like life goes on. Trump is president. Tim Ballard, like, I might end up on his cabinet or something. Honestly, at this point, like a lot of these people, even like the worst serial abusers, still live like very successful lives, and sometimes that's actually really sad and really frustrating. That and even like personally, like maybe a doctor.
Watch this. I reviewed all the evidence. I think I tend to believe Tim Ballard's victims, even though they were doing the kind of the Neil Gaiman thing of like, why did you keep going back, dummies? Adults have like a little bit of some sort of like side to this. You're not being coerced. You're not a 14-year-old being coerced by a prophet,
Like does get a conviction and serves jail time, but then they come out and they keep practicing that. It's not that they I think people kind of talk about it like one false allegation, and then you'll end up homeless and divorced, and you're completely unemployable, and you'll end up an alcohol addict, like living in a van by the river. Like it's all over. It's over. Like everything.
I love how they always bring this. This is one of the things with like the cancel culture that always came up. Is it like cancel culture does great? It does wonders for people who already had fuck you money.
I know.
Like the people who don't have the fuck you money. All the people who are middle managers in America and all that sorts of stuff, they know they do not crawl out of it. They don't crawl out of it. They don't have, like, John Gomeshi, we mentioned, didn't really crawl his career back out of it. Maybe he had some money stored away or something like that. But no, you're bringing up Trump and Tim Ballard and I don't know who else. You're bringing up people who had fuck you money. Like, it doesn't go so well for Johnny Manager,
Everything's over, right? And that's just not true, honestly. Even actually, like, guilty convicted men can still go on to live very successful lives. I mean, that's what happened with Adam Steed's abuser, and he admitted to like violent assaults of multiple boys over several years in the Scouts. And he's got a job, he's married, he has kids now. He served his jail time, he's living his life. So anyway, that's, I guess, something else to keep in mind. And again, and being open about waiting to see.
Go look up how David Silverman's life gone after Matt Dillahunty's wife accused him after they were in a polyamorous relationship. Exmo, it was just a polyamorous relationship, but he was in a position of power of an organization, and it was just in a consensual polyamorous relationship, and he lost that entire organization, hasn't put his life back together, and his wife divorced him, and his kid won't talk to him, and all sorts of stuff. I don't know how it's been going because I haven't listened to him in 2 years, but that's where he was 2 years ago.
It's Maven lives in a fantasy world. She absolutely does. Like, she's so far from reality. It's bonkers.
And we get to have that person gatekeeping the reality of so many ex-Mormons. She talks in here a bit about how she became the moderator on all these different boards. And
see, like leaving a victim and waiting to see how things play out is not the same as saying like John's innocent until proven guilty. So I just wanted to say that too. So anyway, I think did we cover that well enough?
She says it and she tries to cover it. That's actually my grand finale point of that one.
She says it by she actually says that it's she condemns by word
everything you said there, and Gene, the person you have on your show, is a monster. He's bringing monsterism into ex-Mormonism. She needs to go work on herself because her ideas and thoughts are so authoritarian and illiberal. And we ask how that happens in this society nowadays. Maven's how it happened.
Jeez, I am like flabbergasted that she used the words. That's like it was obviously heavily implied. You could tell, but in my head, I was thinking, but she doesn't know that, like, she's so caught up in all this dogma that she doesn't know that's what she's railing against. No, she fucking knew.
No, she knows, and that's even the bad thing. She knows it's the bad thing. You're not supposed to lie.
Innocent until proven guilty is the bad thing. Holy shit. That, Maven, I gotta hand it to you. I did not think that you would ever say anything to me crazier than I am worse than a rapist. But this is crazy. That thing you just said is crazier. Holy shit. That's evil.
Well, so we've had the other lady on Coral Church said that the idea that we should all be one and colorblind and not racist is bad. And we have the presumption of innocence is bad.
Well, I used to say
This is
forever,
where we are.
and we could probably do it, but like think of some liberal kind of general slogan of the post-war era that we kind of grew up in. And there's some sort of way, shape, or form that the progressive people have attacked it. So think of like the slogan, like innocent until proven guilty, or it's not the color of your skin, but the content of your character. Like any single one of the slogans that we kind of grew up with, what we thought was just kind of the common sense of our generally liberal post-war America. They've attacked every single one of them. Like, dig one up. I could probably ask ChatGPT of like, what are some common phrases of it, and they've attacked it. They've just completely attacked it.
Forrest, I'm back. Jesus, no, not Maven.
Oh man,
I think we're
Yeah,
done.
we just had the grand. But you were listening to Michelle Stone. I mean, I could Jesus no, not Michelle Stone.
I know.
I mean, anywhere you go, there's some crazy woman.
If I was going to choose to have one of them in my neighborhood, it'd be Michelle Stone.
Yeah, Mormons make better neighbors.
Yeah. Yep. Rewind a little bit there, Forrest, and you'll see the part where Maven said innocent until proven guilty is bad.
Before I go, do we want to talk at all about those crazy train people? Not that there's that much.
Oh, if you want to.
Just, I don't know, like, because, I'm a little...
Steve had him on. I couldn't listen to the whole thing because
I'm a little disappointed in Steve. Like, I mean, he's being careful about it. Where he's like, look, I'm willing to talk to anybody. I'm willing to talk to anybody. It's like, well, yeah, but like I think you're giving these guys way more credit than they deserve. I don't know. I shouldn't come down on Steve because, like, I don't know. He hasn't said anything where he's affirming what they say. But man, that like I've had a little bit of back and forth in them on the Steve's Facebook comments, but like it just doesn't add up. Their whole story does not add up.
These two right here.
Yeah, like they're the local.
I tried to follow a little bit of it, and it was just too nuts.
The local ward leadership, the corporate ward leadership, Curtin McConkie, the CPS, the local police department, the regular ward members, their neighbors in their neighborhood. All of these groups have singled them out for harassment and personal destruction. And it just doesn't add up. It does not make sense.
I made some crack on one of the things. It's just saying like, yeah, I turned my little brother into the primary and they gave me back a different little brother. And then I got a ninja attacked by one of the first counselors. But I have the receipts for all of it, but watch my 14-part series and donate. And if you want the 15th part, you got to buy my Shadow Legends rave review, like, because it does seem to have like some sort of commercialism with it. Like, here, watch our thing that's actually advertised and monetized.
When I kept asking him, like, what is in there that like, why can't you just tell me what the thing is? And like, we'll watch the show. And I even asked them. I asked them both, the man and the woman. I asked each of them. It's like, okay, a bunch of other people here and on the YouTube have said they watched on Steve's thing, have said they watched the whole series, and they still don't have any answers. It still doesn't make sense to them. Like, how do you account for that? And of course, they didn't answer. The other thing I thought was funny is because, like, they say like, well, people ask us why don't we sue, and it's because we can't afford a lawyer. And then half an hour later, and they're like, well, our lawyer advised us not to blah. I'm like, oh, okay. What the hell was that?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It did not interest me. Like, I got 2 minutes into it and I was like, nope. And it's one of those nopes, and maybe Steve doesn't know this, but it's one of these nopes that you have if you grow up in Mormon landia and you grow up in MLM landia and you grow up in these areas and you get these nopes real quick when you have somebody who's coming and they've got that Vivint face for you. They've got that a little bit of a face for you that they're into Young Living Oils sorts of face. Like, this stuff's all around and I hardly notice it because I nope out of it so fast.
Yeah,
because I've grown up in it. I've grown up in the darkness. Like, Flip and I used to work for the convention center in Salt Lake, which may as well have been just the temple for MLMs in the United States of America.
90% of our business was MLMs. For sure.
Yeah, people would ask, like, who makes money off of MLMs? Like, well, we do, because we run the convention center that they use to fake to look legitimate. And these guys tried to, like, half of the schemes they got whipped up in were MLMs. They were getting into fights with people in their wards because they were getting wrapped up into MLMs.
Yeah.
And
there's also oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Well, because it's slightly an aside, but it's something that like, how do I know that the whole, like, gluten, soy, dairy thing is almost entirely a sociological bullshit thing? Is that anytime we fed a room of 1,000 MLM oil salesmen 600 gluten-free, 400 soy-free, 350 dairy-free. Some of them are overlap of 2 or all of them, right? Whereas when we'd feed a room of 1,000 people at the Hunting and Conservation Expo, one person asks if there's shrimp in anything because they have a shellfish allergy, right? That's how I know that, like, the gluten sensitivity thing is, like, it's not real. It's psychosomatic. Like, it's a social contagion. But, like, yeah, there's no fucking way that population dynamic worked out that way. If you sell magic oil, you can't eat gluten. But if you hunt and kill animals for recreation and a hobby, you don't have no dietary problems. There's just no fucking way that's how it has to shake out.
Yeah. I competed. When I competed as a bodybuilder, I had a professional coach. My professional coach's day job was to create the science drink for one of those MLMs. I forget which one of them. He created the science drink for it. I was a competitor. I was his competitor. I was his competitor going for the top positions in the state. Guess how much of his magic drink he gave me? I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna have you guess how many gulps I had of that.
It was none.0.
You got it exactly to the number. How did you guess the exact number? The exact number? How did you guess that?
One of the early times I was working one of those, and I was working. It was a baked potato bar, and this guy walked up with 3 little girls, 2 of them like a wheelchair, not babies, but all of these girls were like under 6. And he's like, can I just get 3 plain baked potatoes? I'm like, all right, you want any toppings? Because you're like, we had the whole bar with all the things, chili and cheese and vegan stuff and all this stuff. And he's like, no, just plain. I'm like, butter, salt? Like, no, they can't have anything, And I just remember thinking, like, I wanted to say, it was like, no, your daughters are fine. Your wife is insane. like your daughters can have some cheese on their fucking potato. They'll be fine. In fact, they'll love you for it.
Dude, we were dead serious in those places, and people would get injured, and ladies would stop and go, I've got the oils. I've got everybody stand back. I've got the oils. And I'd have to go in as like the HR guy, be like, back the fuck off, lady.
There was a specifically I remember because one of the regulars because it's one of the big events where we bring in all the help we can get, including people's kids. And it's like 15-year-old daughter, because like we would walk through the convention center pushing, the giant hot boxes, they're huge. And like we do these in big caravans, and like there was like a traffic jam, and somebody crunched into her ankle with one of these things and banged up her ankle real bad. And so she's got two people on either side of her, and she's like limping her way out of the building while they're going to take her to work med to get an x-ray, and a woman stops her to rub orange oil on the fucking ankle. Like it's like, oh, like I can help orange oil. Like, no, like she needs an x-ray, she needs a brace, she might need a steroid shot. Like now all that happens is the doctor's going to be like, well, this smells good. Like,
yeah, Flip saw like us. I'm sure he got into him too. We got into infinite. This is what I thought when 2007 atheism hit, and it was just kind of winning before it went nuts, and it was just kind of winning, and everybody was kind of like, okay, everything's maybe stupid. I thought the future of arguments was just going to be arguing over food crap like this, which I guess is culminating in the Maha movement sort of right here now. But I seriously thought the future was just going to be straight. Skeptics Guide to the Universe for 5, 6, 7 years. What I was listening to it was for food bullshit. Yeah. That and Skeptoid, you know what I mean? Because there was so much bullshit, just bullshit out there. And I just got in endless arguments with people because I'd carry Diet Coke around the place, and I'd have all these fat ladies tell me how I was killing myself. And it was one of the things that used to drive me crazy. But I just remembered one thing. You want to hear something crazy about my time? This is another Forrest Gump Chris Hanna. Forrest Gump Chris Hanna spent an entire day sitting next to the dude who cut his finger off, who climbed the Dawn Wall, just hanging out and conversing with him. If you've seen that Netflix documentary, just me and him. And I had no idea who he was. The Dawn Wall, the first guy to climb the Dawn Wall, Netflix.
I don't know if I know that.
Because like we would have those like conventions come.
Yeah. Oh.
This dude right here. It's a great documentary if you want to watch it. The first guy to climb the Dawn Wall. And he has this whole story too that him and his ex-wife got kidnapped during a climb in Pakistan too. And it's got this crazy story. Yeah, you got to hear that story. It's an amazing. This dude is awesome, and he's so awesome that I hung out with him a whole day and didn't even know who he was. It was an outdoor retailer, and you know how we all had to go out there, and I just had to sit there by like some alcohol thing, because in Utah you had to have somebody stand by an alcohol thing. And he was there as like the person to come up to and talk. He was just talking to me all day long, and I didn't realize he was like a damn celebrity. He's like a huge celebrity in the rock climbing world. Watch this documentary. It's an amazing documentary. But another Forrest Gump moment for me. I didn't even know.
I got to bail though.
Okay.
I'm going to listen to what Jared said, and then I'm going to bail.
Go ahead.
I just had a great voodoo moment that I was thinking of when my wife's extended family is real big into all that stuff. And we were all like, we rented 4-wheelers and we're riding 4-wheelers. My brother-in-law and his little sister, they were on one, and they got in a crash, and her helmet flew off and she hit her head, and we're like in the middle of nowhere. Luckily somebody came along and they were able to, like, she was kind of out of it. She clearly had a concussion. They drove her to the hospital. And when we all got to the hospital, I get there as they're explaining, the doctor is asking them, like, does she have any allergies that we should be aware of? And they start saying, well, she's allergic to red food dye, but only like sometimes. Sometimes it kind of shuts off. She's also like black pepper, but only like occasionally. But
those guys got to be so used to that by now.
I know.
Though, right?
I know she's got to be used to it, but like they just named off several different things that she was sometimes allergic to, and then the doctor's like, okay, and then she left, and when she left, I was like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom real quick, and I ran out and I caught up to her, and I was like, hey, you probably noticed this already, but everything they know about her health, they learned from a rock. She's like, yeah, I know.
yeah. I noticed.
They had one of the pendulums that would. I remember them telling my youngest sister-in-law that she's gluten intolerant, right? Because the pendulum told them, and then we're sitting there, and she's like, "Hey, Mom, can I have some of these goldfish?" And her mom's like, "Let me ask the pendulum." And Oh, sorry, the pendulum said no. And I was like, wait a minute, wait. Why'd you even ask it? It already told her she's gluten intolerant. And there's gluten in that shit. Why are you asking her? Can she eat the thing that she's allergic to?
Yeah. Those things crack me up because the way everybody's gotten into those things and gotten so hardcore into them. But I wonder if stuff's gonna get shady with the Maha stuff now that RFK's like passed, because I don't think it's such a bad thing, because for years it took me a while to open my eyes and see that there's something to Eastern medicine in the sense of don't take the thing. You know what I mean? Like instead of eat the thing, eat the thing, eat the thing. Oh, this thing hurts me. Well, here's a pill to make it stop hurting you. Keep eating the thing, you know. And you do see how like there's a critique in that's the consumer side of it. Keep buying the thing and buy the pill that helps you buy the thing. You can see that. You can almost kind of see a Marxist critique of that sort of thing. And there is sort of something on the other end of it of like, maybe don't eat the thing. Maybe, and not the thing is never the answer in Western medicine type stuff. But that being said, I think there's something good that there's that attitude in there, but RFK's got a little bit bonky stuff. Like
He's got some wacky shit for sure.
With he believes in these ways a little bit, but on top of that too, some of his ideas, like some of the stuff that we've just taken for granted for years, and this could go back on the Scott Adams thing, but there's a lot of stuff like, oh, they just ran all those old tests on all these vaccines with the young kids, and RFK points out and looks at it and goes, no, they didn't. Like, they didn't ever do these tests, and they didn't ever do these. There's a lot of supposed tests that we all just kind of assumed had happened and hadn't, you know, and it'd be good to get to testing stuff. So that's actually doing science, right? If it actually goes that way. But there's some stuff that could be weird in there too.
All right, I'm gonna
Flip. I wanted you to watch one last little clip.
Okay, last little clip.
Just the Captain America. I love this guy. This guy cracks me up.
Pitch meeting. I watched this earlier.
He cracks me up. But the very first little bit of this, I just wanted to comment on for a second because it's such one of our favorite things.
So, you have a new Captain America movie for me? Yes, sir, I do. So the last time we saw Sam Wilson was in his Disney Plus show, and he solved everything by telling a senator to do better. Oh, yeah, that was so iconic, the way he was like, you're not very good at your job. Is he going to save the day with a speech to a politician in this one, too? Well, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, he totally is. Oh, my.
I wonder if, like, dead seriously, like, when I heard all that, because we know the do better thing, but that's genuinely like, is that an archetype for the left? Like, they sit and it used to be that you daydream of the Superman thing of like saving the damsel in distress from like flying up and rescuing her from the building. Do they sit and fantasize about lecturing a politician to do better? And then they fantasize about it so much they go, dang, I wish I could see that in a movie one time or something. Oh, there it is. He's lecturing the politician do better. Like, is it that much of a thing that they just love that? They just love it. They just love the do betters.
We should let Flip go because I'm about to go on a big rant about Captain America.
Oh God, I've never watched any of them, so I don't.
Oh, you haven't watched any of them?
I think I've watched.
We're just getting. We called this show Slop. That's why you have to get out because you don't even participate.
I don't even know.
Slop.
Yeah, like no, like I said, I think the only Marvel thing I've watched. Is I watched the Christmas special just because the old 97s were in it, and that's it.
I used
to even Marvel.
I used to joke about this, and it's true.
That is
like
Marvel.
Flip was the poorest. Not saying like the poorest, but just the poorest fine taste person I've ever met in my life. Every single thing he does, like he knows the finer things of everything. He does the finer. He doesn't participate in much slop. He knows the finer of music. He knows the finer of movies. He knows the finer of materials. He knows the finer of coffees. He knows the finer of wines. He knows the finer of guitars. It can be even frustrating sometimes because if you buy a really nice new guitar, he could tell you just how not as good it is as a really fine one, like really quickly type stuff. But he's got the finest taste out there, and if he ever had like the money to do it, he would spend it right. You would be like, I don't even fault him for that. He's not doing what those other billionaires are doing. He's doing it right.
Well, you've got, I mean, because you've got that Gretsch Tennessee Rose. That's always my dream guitar. I'm still ages away from being able to afford one of those.
Oh
You-
yeah, but
you
still,
get with
even
that?
that one's like, you know that you could find a better guitar. Than
Hey,
that.
Flip,
if you had unlimited money, think unlimited money.
Give me your opinion
Oh,
on
yeah.
Nashville Strats.
Nashville Strats?
Yeah, or Nash Strats. I mean, I don't know if it's Nashville. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I played one.
I don't know what a Nash Strat is. There's so many
Oh.
Fenders now.
It's like a. It just looks like a
The
normal
yellow.
Strat, but it
yellow
it looks beat to hell. They always look beat
Oh,
to hell.
My guitarist uses a
distressed
Nashville
ones?
Strat, yeah.
The artificially distressed ones?
I don't even know if they're artificially distressed because a lot of them they're like old.
It's just that yellow one, right?
It's kind of whitish. It's like an off-white, and then there's a bunch of yellow on it because the paint's been scraped off.
I have one of those body Strats.
Because that was like one of my favorite guitars I ever played on.
I have one of those.
I've never
You
played
should
one.
see my Strat. Except I had the neck redone.
Huh.
Images. So I thought you were saying like these yellowish ones right here. Yeah.
No, it's that one in the top right. Yeah, that is artificial wear, actually. That's definitely which is stupid.
Mine's got
but-
real wear on it. I've got a real wear Nashville Strat body that I just bought the body. All I did is bought the body and then I replaced the neck
Oh,
with
that
rosewood.
one. I remember that one. Yeah.
I fucking love that guitar.
I mean,
play my
if you
guitar
find a
with
good
me.
guitar, that's like the guy who taught me to play guitar. He bought one electric guitar in 1991. It was a Mexican Stratocaster, and that guitar is a fucking gem. It's one of the best playing guitars I've ever played in my life. He's never done anything to it. He's never had any work done on it. Like until I recently bought my electric guitar, I was using his guitar to play with the Brazilian guys all this time. But like, and it's just because when he bought his guitar, like he was already a violin player, so I think he could, I think he played it and could tell it was a good one. But like, just sometimes I don't know, it's just how it works with those things. Because like most Mexican Stratocasters are, middling to fair, but like that little Mexican Strat plays better than like I bought a $1,000 Strat.
I'm not crazy about Strats because they're so solo oriented, if that makes sense. Like they don't feel great for being chordal, but they feel great for cutting through. And that's not usually my goal, is to cut through like that.
All right, I'm gonna bail while I can.
Alrighty.
I'll see you guys.
All right, what's the Captain America rant?
Oh God, it's just this whole thing is stupid.
The Falcon?
Yeah, well, it's not so much that I care about because Falcon was already a superhero. Like he already had a superhero name, and the big thing.
Well, it's supposed to be Bucky Barnes, who's the
Bucky Barnes is supposed to be the next one. Like in the comics, Sam Wilson does become Captain America briefly, but like
he does.
Yeah, but people hate those comics, and that wasn't until later that happened, and it's probably mostly because they wanted a black Captain America.
Was he black from the beginning?
Probably not,
Falcon?
but by the time he became Captain America, this Falcon was black. But this whole idea of a movie is stupid. The Hulk.
Well, you heard they like rewrote it like 4 times, right?
Oh yeah, they did. But if you come and tell me, like, if you pitch the idea to me, like his main villain is gonna be the fucking Red Hulk, who can beat the shit out of the Hulk sometimes, I'd be like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's so fucking stupid. He doesn't like. It's not at all believable that Steve Rogers, Captain America, could beat up. Oh, yep, there he is. He's white in that first picture, I think.
Yeah, it looks like the Google was blackwashing it, but I don't think. I tried to say original Falcon.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just it was a dumb idea to begin with, and the way he beats it, like, because he's got all this tech, but like I didn't even find Iron Man's Hulkbuster shit believable to be able to fight the Hulk. But you get Captain America without, like, he's just a normal guy with wings, and the way he beats the Hulk in the movie is apparently he just like talks him down. He talks him down and it doesn't work, and then they fight for a little while, and then he talks him down again and it works this time.
So that white guy's a different name. So Sam Wilson always was black, but Carl Burgess was the first.
Oh, gotcha.
Falcon, Carl Burgess. So that's the first version of Falcon, but it was a different guy. So Wilson always was the black dude. But I guess he's from the future times, whereas it looks like this guy's back from the old times.
Oh yeah.
Man, Captain America, they did pretty good movies with those for a couple of them there. 2 of them, right? And then
yeah, the second one is the best Marvel movie they ever made.
Yeah. And then the Civil War stuff wasn't bad either.
No, that was still pretty good. They were still going pretty strong for that, and they did a good job on that for the most part.
So one of the reason I wanted to, I even called this Slop or talked about Slop is partially because I didn't know what we were going to talk about yet, and I might want to try to do the quiz, the transparency quiz here in a second. But before we really had like an idea of like what we were going to talk about, I was thinking about just talking slop, and I saw somebody say that really the only thing that causes slop in this world is, you can kind of point to modernity, but it really is just massification. Anything that as soon as you try to massify, when you try to make the food massified. I just barely rewatched The Founder, the McDonald's movie. Have you ever seen that?
No, but I know
it's a really good movie. Speaking of a superhero, Michael Keaton. But it's a good movie, and one of the things that's good about it is it just kind of shows how these guys had these really amazing ideas about hamburgers and all that sorts of stuff, and doing the thing, and they had these groundbreaking ideas on how to make the hamburgers better and faster, and groundbreaking ideas to like serve it in not give you utensils and put it in a bag and make it fast. Like they had all these different ideas how to do this fast kitchen. It goes through all the stuff, and it's got the dude who plays the libertarian guy in
Dexter.
No, the libertarian guy in
Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
Oh, Nick.
Yeah, he plays the genius McDonald's founder. He does a good job in it and stuff. But he's got like all these genius ideas, and they are genius ideas. It is part of what makes it McDonald's, is that they go fast and they figure out how to cut out stuff, and they figure out how to keep rowdy teenagers away from it. Like, because part of the problem with like those places, they become car hops where rowdy teenagers would hang out, and all these different ideas. But then Ray Kroc comes along and he wants to franchise it out, and he puts it out and franchises it out. And it just kind of shows him going through like a little bit of the problems that they had, that they couldn't keep the quality up as they franchise it out. But then he kind of figures it out a little bit, how to quality control as he franchises out. And part of how he quality controls is choosing the manager class. This again gets back to like the managerial revolution, is he realizes that he can't be choosing like rich people with a ton of ideas. He has to be choosing kind of just hardworking Joes who aren't going to think hard, but are just going to do it. He's got to just choose those types of guys. So you can kind of see the advent of the new managerial class that are just going to follow the rules and do the thing, right? But then as he massifies it out, the way Ray Kroc takes it over from the original guys is he 100% realizes that it's not even about all their amazing ideas and inventions. He realizes it's about real estate. It's about real estate and their brand name, and he steals it from them through real estate and their brand name, and that's the real value of the thing, not these crazy, amazing inventions that were this thing that was just like original, true Americana art form created that was a new thing that was just drawing people in by droves. The movie does such a good job of showing the slopification and how stuff kind of gets taken over by corporate interest and that sort of stuff. And one of the things I like about it too is that I don't even think it judges Kroc that hard for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just kind of says, this is what it is, and this is how it happened, and that's how he did it. And even that was a sort of ingenious idea in a way to, but the slop of the Marvel stuff, the slop of that is the massification as well. Like, I think that they feel like they figured out how to factory make Marvel movies. And I think if you look at it on paper, you could say to yourself, I can factory make these. Everybody did. Like, after a minute, you're like, just make some character. He's got some sort of bad guy, and the bad guy sort of kind of lands on the same powers as the main guy. And then he's supposed to beat that dude and then kind of hint at going and joining with the big crew, and they're going to save the world. Right. But all of it's just whenever stuff tries to get massified, is that it just turns to dog shit. And food, music, the music industry and all that sorts of stuff. And I think so many different people were watching that we're kind of hitting at that with the Super Bowl music and all that sorts of stuff, that even the music nowadays, the rap and that sort of stuff, they're making raps for TikTok videos nowadays. Like they generally think about like, will this play on TikTok? That's what they think about. Like, is it going to be like a nice little 30-seconder that you could do a dance to for a TikTok video?
Yeah,
And
that airline company tried that recently.
yeah. Anyway, we could have talked a whole lot longer about slop and slopification. What's Troy talking about here? What are these guys talking about here?
They're talking about Sam Harris, like the thing. Risto asked for us to say what Sam Harris does right, and he's explaining it to him. And then they talked about agnosticism. Risto says it was coined by Huxley in the late 19th
Aldous
century,
Huxley,
I guess.
Of Brave New World Huxley, is that who coined agnosticism?
I don't know any other Huxley, so if you just use the last name, I assume that's
It's coined by his grandfather, Thomas Henry Huxley. It's kind of funny because I guess they went into that. It's a little bit Reddit atheism stuff to like say, well, agnosticism and atheism are two different things, all that sorts of stuff. But RFM and Colby Reddish did a long thing covering Austin Fife's kind of BS on if he really had a faith crisis or not. But did you watch all that or not?
I watched Steve Pineker's interview with him. I think I finished the whole thing.
Yeah, they did like 3-4 hours off of that interview. Like 4 hours off of it.
Oh shit. Yeah, well it was a stupid. I don't know, like it didn't sound at all like a faith crisis to me. Like I think Steve pretty much nailed it when he's like, is it fair to say you kind of just checked out for a couple months?
Yeah.
He wasn't even trying to be a dick. He's just like, what are you saying?
The Huxleys are weird, man, because the Huxleys were really, really involved in some different secret society type stuff. Some of that secret society type stuff that you saw floating around Oppenheimer and all that sorts of deal. Well, the Huxleys were there in the pictures. I think they even like had them in the Oppenheimer movie, but that Oppenheimer movie glazed over so hard those weird little sex cults that they all kind of got into.
Forrest is talking about how he doesn't like he can't get into the meditation thing, and I'm like with him. Like I think it's probably the meditation shit is probably really good for you. It's just so hard for me to take it seriously. Like I tried yoga one time, and just the words, I can't take it seriously when they're like, focus on your breathing. Oh, this is gay. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't think you could ever get into it. I think there's enough meditation. Like, is it not meditation, asking for the meditators out there, when you're lifting to be thinking or not thinking, or when you're walking your dog to be thinking or not thinking, or does that not count? Do I have to be sitting in a goddamn lotus position? Like, that's a genuine question. Like, are you supposed to get the actual benefits? Are you supposed to be in lotus position, which I find to be the most uncomfortable position in history?
So we doing the transparency quiz?
Yeah, you want to do it? I might have to put a email address in there.
You want to put mine in there? Is that what you're saying?
If you want everybody to see it or not, but
yeah, I don't care.
Or I could look it up. What is it?
It's JER 8891.
Oh gosh, man! Expose us as a.
I told that story on here when we were sharing.
You have to say it every time, or they're gonna think you're a Nancy.
I know that I showed that profile. Like someone was asking for certain profiles on an ex-Mormon thing, and I showed mine, and it was just JER88, and they were like, "Oh, the Hitler stuff, huh?" I was like, "No, it's my birthday's August 8th, you jackass." And like, "Sure. Do you have any proof?" I was like, "Well, I could, but fuck you. I just believe me, you dumb shit."
Yeah. Forrest is on the All In podcast, which I do watch sometimes, not religiously. He says Naval was just talking about how he meditates to go to sleep because it's the only thing that his brain would rather sleep than meditate. That's pretty funny. Oh, there's sincere and sincerity. Oh, almost out. HH. But for the psychiatric help, just go for your doctor and look at a tree. Yeah, I do that. Okay, Jer8891.
Yeah, at Gmail.
Troy, do you get a psychedelic effect from lotus position? It doesn't. I maybe I've tried once or twice and went kind of bananas from it. But
I don't know. I could. It's this kind of thing I just can't take seriously when I'm trying to take myself, because you got to take yourself seriously, and I can't do that. I'm just like,
hey, look at you dipshit. You're sitting here meditating, you dipshit. Do you want to put your other info as true? What's your?
Yeah, I don't care. What? I don't see what you're typing.
It didn't go to the new page. Hold on. There we go.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, 33.
Why did that happen? Do I have the number lock on? Yeah, 8 years, 30, 333. Number of years. What number of years you were a member of record?
I mean, I get 33, but like I just put, I don't know, 24. 24 is fine.
That's about when I left this. I forget like the exact time frame. I think it was 23. I think 23 is when I really.
Mine was 23 or 24. I can't remember. Current LES believes. Non-believer.
Which option best describes your current
never.
LDS attendance?
Current of record.
During your time as a church member, was it your general experience that both investigators and members were broadly taught that Joseph Smith was brought to criminal trial in 1826 as a treasure digger? That's kind of so specific.
That's pretty specific.
Could you say yes to somebody said he was a treasure digger? Did anybody hint at that?
Maybe I might have heard it once, but I didn't really think anything of it because I didn't understand the stigma so if somebody told me that he used to dig for treasure when he was younger or whatever, I would have been like, oh, okay. I wouldn't. Really
I didn't hear it. I for sure didn't hear it until Grant Palmer's book.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't hear it, so I'd say no to that.
I remember hearing Grant Palmer's book being announced before it even came out. I said, "Oh, I'm going to check that out as soon as it comes out." So I got it right when it came out. I'm going to see when it came out. Grant Palmer, Mormon Origins. It's an insider's view of Mormon Origins, 2002. How old was I in 2002?
You're probably in your 40s, I'd say.
2002, 1979, like 23, right? 23 is right.
Oh, yeah.
This book didn't, I was kind of on my way out that's why I wanted to get this book when it came out. But I didn't hear about the treasure digging until this book. Until the Book of Mormon Origins.
I definitely didn't hear about the trial, so I'd say no.
I didn't even hear a peep of any sort of treasure or anything. If you answered yes to the above, where is this information? So you said, oh, I got to put yours. So you said yes?
I said no.
Oh, you said no.
Yeah.
During your time as a church member, which description below most accurately reflects what you, other church members, and investigators were most often taught regarding the translation of the Book of Mormon with Oliver Cowdery?
I mean, I wasn't really taught anything on it, so I just went by the pictures. So yeah, I definitely wasn't taught the stone in a hat thing. So the second one.
So the two answers are: the church generally taught that the golden plates were completely out of Joseph Smith's sight, while he was translating the Book of Mormon using a stone placed in a hat.
Yeah, the other one, the Urim and Thummim is what I was taught.
The church generally taught that he was sitting on a table with Joseph Smith while he was translating using the Urim and Thummim. So no, I didn't know about the stone until like the South Park time frame. And I seem to remember hearing something about like the book wasn't always in his hands and he could use the magic of the Urim and Thummim. Like I feel like I might have heard that, but
I don't think I heard that. During your time as a church member, was it your general experience that both investigators and members were broadly taught that the Book of Mormon witness David Whitmer denied that Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery ever received Melchizedek priesthood from Peter, James, and John, and instead that it was invented after the fact? No, definitely not. I
didn't hear any talk about any of that.
I learned that right now. And
Forrest says I was a lazy learner. I mean,
yeah.
I try to think of, so I was not giddy about seminary. I got kicked out of seminary. I got asked to not return. I wish my parents kept a letter. I was given a letter that said I didn't allow the class to have the spirit. That was my second year of seminary. I was too much of a class clown, and I got asked to not return. So I only got 2 years of seminary graduation. My parents still made me go during the Utah Jazz finals game. And sit there to get my 2-year graduation from seminary.
That's a thing?
Yeah. In Utah, you have to go to seminary graduation.
Well, no, I went to it too, but a 2-year seminary graduation?
Yeah. Yeah. They gave me a 2-year.
Like you got an associate's degree in Mormonism?
I got an associate's degree in seminary, yes.
Okay.
I know this is true because I only went 2 years and I had to go sit in that stupid thing during a Utah Jazz game, and we were all listening during the Utah Jazz versus Bulls finals. We were sitting in the seminary graduation, and I only had a 2-year one. I'm like, I cannot believe my parents made me come to this.
Wow. All right, what's next?
Agnosticism serves as a fig leaf for materialism. Okay. I wish my parents still had. Maybe they do have that letter somewhere. I got asked by Mr. Ziegler, my 10th grade year, to not return to seminary. During your time as a church member, was it your general experience that both investigator and member were broadly and explicitly taught that Joseph Smith married over 30 women in his lifetime, including girls as young as 14? Mother-daughter pairs, sister pairs, and over 10 women who were already married at the time he was sealed to them.
Dylan, you're way too specific with these, but no.
Yeah, it's way too much to make it so that the answer would have to be no, even if you did hear stuff.
Yeah, well, if that means you could have heard about his polygamy, but not heard about the 14-year-olds. So whatever.
I could have said yes because I have no idea why or how it got into my brain, but I've mentioned it several times that I remember saying to some people on my mission, and I don't know where the number came from, that I had heard 7, that I thought it was 7 for some reason. I'd heard Joseph Smith had 7 wives too, and I don't know where I got that from or when, but I could say yes if I said somebody told me somewhere that Joseph Smith had other wives.
I was told the opposite. I was told by several people that it was Brigham Young. So,
during your time as a church member, was it your general experience that both investigators and members were broadly taught that Joseph Smith hid his first 22 polyamorous marriages from his wife Emma and his first wife? And, well, no, because I didn't.
Yeah, I answered no on the last one. So, during your time as a church member, was it your general experience that both investigators and members were broadly? I'm not reading that anymore. That he changed his account during the first vision several times? No.
No, so that one was also new to me from Grant Palmer's book. So I learned that in 2002 as well. And that one was a shocker for me. And I don't think I was a lazy learner on that because I went to church every week.
Yeah, I was in church every single week. I did all 4 years of seminary. I was always at Mutual, and I hated it.
And part of the reasons I get kicked out of stuff is I get so bored of being like, I can't believe we're doing this story. We're doing Daniel in the Lion's Den again. I remember that always be my joke. Daniel in the Lion's Den. We're doing Daniels in the Lion's Den. Like it was the same kind of like innocuous stories over and over. But I know you're just playing. But at the same time, I'm going to take that like generally serious. Like, could they just say that I just missed it? And I don't think so.
There's some things you could have missed, right? Like I was totally not aware that Joseph Smith was a polygamist until I was on my mission. Like I was told the opposite. I clearly I missed that in the year of seminary that we were studying D&C, because I don't know that I don't remember it, but I'm sure we went over D&C 132, which lays out the polygamy shit and names Emma specifically, like, you'll be destroyed if you don't go along with this.
Yeah, I don't get it, because, like, I mean, I guess I could have been the type of excited learner who went and read more, but I never did. I was always so bored. I was just totally like that Simpsons meme of when they get out of church and like, longest possible time before more church. Yes, like that was totally me from childhood. I hated it. I hated every second of it. And I don't get offended in any way when Mormons try to say you never were really into it. Nope, I sure wasn't. But I do remember stuff like I remember covering 9,000 times, like those 2 boys or 3 boys who helped them all cross the river and get there. And that turned out to not even be like totally a true story, right?
Not really.
But I mean, if I remember hearing that story 20 times, I remember hearing about Emma Smith. I remember what else? You heard enough different stuff that.
Was it your general experience that members were taught that Joseph Smith allowed several black men to receive the priesthood before breaking in and put the privilege away? I'd say yes.
I did know that one, yes. I did know that one.
I don't know when it was taught. Shut up. Seminary, like
it was floating around, damn it. I heard that one. I just heard people say Joseph Smith was one of the first. They kind of say it as a bragging thing.
Yeah, because they'd like to brag about how he was an abolitionist, apparently.
He was really inclusive.
Let's see. That Joseph Smith was a member of the Masonic Lodge, and that a significant percentage of the LDS temple ceremony. Okay, so this again, you're throwing 2 things in there. Because I knew about the Masonic stuff. I didn't know anything about Masonry. Somebody told me, yeah, he was a Mason, and I was like, what is a Mason? Like, oh, they just get together and.
I'd heard some of the stuff was similar.
I didn't know anything about the temple ceremony.
I had heard stuff about like the temple symbology, like the Salt Lake Temple had some symbols all over it, and I'd heard some stuff about that, and I'd seen some of those symbols because I'd gone. My first time through was through the Salt Lake Temple, with a live action of the old people doing it really slowly and boringly.
So I don't even know what to say to that, because I knew the first one, I didn't know the second one. No, because of the second one, I would say. But this is I see what you're doing here, Dylan.
Yeah, you make it impossible to say yes to them, even if, like, you can split these out and there could be some transparency.
Yeah. During your time as a church member, were they taught the Egyptian scrolls that Joseph Smith used to translate the Book of Abraham had been translated by modern Egyptologists, and Joseph's translation had been deemed to be completely false, and that the name Abraham doesn't even appear anywhere in the scrolls? No, definitely not.
No, but I actually don't recall the moment that I found that out.
Oh, I found that out as I was leaving.
I think I did too. I think I might have heard it before though.
Because I remember thinking that was like one of the very most damning ones.
I might have heard that one floating around before.
Was the experience that Joseph Smith's final incarceration in Carthage jail was a direct result of his destruction of the Nauvoo Expo? No,
I learned that after.
Yeah, I was always taught that was persecution. Like they hated him. They hate us because our freedom. type
I remember when Jeffrey R. Holland's famous speech came out, where he holds up the book and says they were given a chance to deny this and live, or say that it's true and die. And
that was right before my mission, and so when I was in the MTC, Holland was everyone's favorite apostle.
I was very irritated by that talk. Like, that talk pissed me off bad, and because I was just like a couple years into finding out all the other stuff about Carthage, and that they'd been drinking and smoking on that last day, and that the scenario was not, hey, deny the book and you can live. Like, I knew that wasn't true, and I knew that couldn't have been the book either, because they wouldn't, like, I'd been to college and I'd been in rare bookstores, and I'd been through the rare book process. Have you ever had to go through like a rare book process?
No.
Yeah, if you want to touch a book that's like over 100 years old, you'll destroy it. You can't touch it with your hands. You can't bring it out. You have to go into like a rare book area. You have to go through like all these doors that suck all the air out, and everything's like wrapped in the super paper, and you can't touch it with your hands. There's no way they gave him that book to just go wave around.
Oh yeah.
in the meeting. So I thought that was a bit of a lie too, on top of stuff. But I was just so irritated by it because I knew that the rest of the LDS people around me didn't know that there was more to that story. You know,
Yes. So that one's a no for sure. Overall, do you feel the LDS Church has been fully honest with its membership and investigators about its history? No. Do you feel like the historical information above is important when evaluating the validity of LDS truth claim? Well, yeah, I guess. Do you feel like that you would have made different life decisions if you had been given all the information mentioned above? I don't know. Probably not. I probably would have been too much of a pussy to. I'd be like, okay, I'll go on a mission. I didn't want to go on a mission at all.
Do you think there's somebody that could have answered them all exactly the way that we answered them, but then here also say, no, I think they were fine. They didn't have to talk about that stuff.
I would like to see Jacob's responses to this.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to say, because you say like, no, I didn't know, but yes, it's fine. Or yes, I did know.
Well, I guess Jacob would just say, yes, we were taught all this. Anyway.
He would just say yes, that he heard them all?
Yeah, he'd be like, yeah, we were taught all this. Do you personally believe that the church leadership has intentionally withheld this information because it was too problematic? Oh, yeah.
Risto asks, like, did we get told a whole lot that we came west because of persecution? Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the way I viewed most of us going and having to do like those pretend handcart walks that we do in the summers with like the youth and all that stuff, or we'd have to go listen to stories and sit there and cry to the stories. It almost kind of felt like the same thing that you might get out of like some modern school where you're supposed to go listen to slave stories or something like that and cry to them or something. Like, it was really kind of presented as, I don't know, Moses getting kicked out of the promised land to come west, and they chased us here, and they went through the hardest of hard times, and that's how we got here.
Forrest said those handcart things were great because my crush was there and I was trying so hard. See, I wanted to do one of those handcart things because there's a lot of girls I liked, but we only did them like once every 2 years, and for some reason the year that I would have been up for it in that age range, they like didn't do it, so I never did it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was like perfectly fine as a thing, but I never felt connected to Pioneer stuff, even though I have Pioneer ancestry. Like,
I never did.
I just don't think like that. I don't. I wonder sometimes if I was a black person, if I would just be immune to that, of being like,
I know.
Well, your great grandpa was a slave. I'm like, yeah, but that's not me. I mean, I feel that with the pioneers. You know what I mean? Like, your great granddad did that. Okay, but I didn't.
I know. I don't believe in collective guilt, and I feel like if I don't believe in collective guilt, I also can't believe in collective pride.
Yeah, just like anybody in history, I'd be like, holy crap, that's crazy that they did that. But I feel no different for that guy being wowed by what they did than I was wowed by some guy in World War II, than I was wowed by some guy in ancient Rome. They were all wows, but they were all kind of distant from me.
Well, it was like when I was in Brazil, they always brought up Santos Dumont, who apparently Flip told me that this is real, that like he actually did invent some type of an airplane before the Wright brothers or something like that. And
wow.
It worked better. And they would always bring that up to me like it was some sort of a gotcha. Like, ha, see, you didn't invent the airplane. I was like, yeah, I never did. All right. Like, this is an interesting factoid you just gave me. And I don't feel anything about it. Like, I don't feel, no, we invented it, because we doesn't include me. I did jack shit. It doesn't matter if the airplane was invented in Ethiopia. I hold no claim. Anyway, would you be willing to share? Oh, please share any final thoughts you would like to share about church history. I don't know. No, shut up, John. Would you be willing to share your responses to this questionnaire on a YouTube podcast video to promote greater awareness? Yeah, I'll share it with you, John. But
you don't want to add anything on 15?
What would I add?
Anything experience you'd like to?
I'll do something self-righteous.
I would be the best podcast guest in history. Submit. You see that Jacob called out, Vogel called out Jacob's error on the Book of Abraham. That page that Jacob said wasn't in Smith's handwriting turns out, in fact, to be Smith's handwriting. I watched Jacob's whole entire video on that stuff, but we were talking this a little bit in a thread between the Book of Enoch stuff and the Book of Abraham stuff. And the last time I really dove deep into Abraham stuff, it seems like the fair and farms people have put in some legwork. And a lot of that legwork has been around saying that there's crazy things that seem to match up with what we know about the Book of Enoch and what we know about ancient times and all that sort of. So how did he land on all those things? Like, never mind the Egyptian papyri, never mind all that stuff. He's landing on crazy, wild, amazing things.
That's what you have to do. Like, we were getting Holland shit, but like, he had really the only response when that guy confronted him on the Book of Abraham thing. He had the only response you can really have, which is, I don't know what was written on the papyrus, but I know that whatever Joseph Smith wrote down, using that as inspiration or translation material or whatever, I know that's true. That's pretty much your only route.
The Book of Enoch stuff was I mean, I'd heard it floating around out there, but I just hadn't dove into it. And listening to all of it, I'm like, wow, they put in a ton of legwork here to like match this up with that and match this up with that and match this up with that. And I was hearing it a little bit today. I was talking earlier about Don Bradley was just on that. I don't even know what channel it is, but he was talking about all this stuff about the witnesses. And did you know that there was 8 witnesses here and 3 witnesses here and 1 witness here? Do you know how many witnesses? That's 12 witnesses. And it all just kind of becomes like weird numerology to me. I listen to stuff in like, I listen to Apologia Studios talk about the Book of Isaiah perfection and all that sort of stuff and listen to those old things. And so I came across one myself this week. I was watching Aristocats from Disney and I heard the voice of Winnie the Pooh. And so then I went and looked at Winnie the Pooh. His name is Holloway, Sterling Holloway. And Winnie the Pooh is a lookalike to Xi Jinping. And he looks like Xi Jinping and he eats the slop. And he tries to tell you just eat the slop and enjoy your life and don't try to be anything bigger or greater. But who else did Winnie the Pooh voice? He was also the voice of Kaa the snake. Kaa the snake would mesmerize you with his eyes. And Kaa the snake would make you hypnotized so he could eat you, maybe plump you up first from eating all the honey and then eat you. And then who else did he play? He played the Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cat who is trying to dupe you and throw you off with all this postmodern nonsense. And all that said, Book of Mormon's true. So I just did Don Bradley. So I just made a bunch of weird connections and then jumped to what? Okay. There's Book of Mormon.
You sent that video in the chat. And I was like, oh man, I might watch it just because of your claim that you sent with it. But like, just the title was what was the title? This fact about the witnesses changes everything. I was like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, well, most of it was just, I didn't finish the whole entire thing, but some was just like reframing the meaning of stuff because there was actually 12 of them. And then after that, there was something about, well, it turns out a bunch of different women actually witnessed it too because they have all these little stories of having seen it while they're cleaning and doing housework. So they become witnesses too. And that actually invites you to become a witness yourself because I don't know the conclusions that come out.
It sounds like that
jumps. Like I just Winnie the Pooh's voice is Kaa. The Cheshire Cat, Xi Jinping looks like Winnie the Pooh. So the Book of Mormon's true. Like I just feel like it's that much of a non sequitur. It's like here's a thing that all connects, and so you're invited to also be a witness of the Book of Mormon. Like what? Like what?
It's that,
They connected three things that are kind of connected, and so this.
It's the Jim Carrey movie, The Number 24.
Yeah, I saw that once.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but I watched it's just everything connects to 24.
Yeah. So Troy's talking about Jacob. I guess Jacob corrected himself about something with Dan Vogel saying something wasn't in Joseph Smith's writing. I don't know. Those two videos were interesting to me, though. I didn't realize Fair and Farms had gotten that far into trying to connect up stuff in the actual scriptures to ancient things like that. And so it's like, it was kind of like, oh man, they've put in some legwork. Because I'm sure when I read it all 20 years ago, that stuff wasn't there yet. Like they hadn't been like putting in the time to try to match little verses or little things here and there to something in history. But whatever Don Bradley's doing doesn't seem crazy different to me either. It's like he's picking out numerology to make it make sense. But
well, shit.
I think we got there.
We got there. We found out that the Mormon Church isn't transparent with its shit. Although those questions were horrid, John.
Let's still man them. What's one area where they were more transparent than Delenn would give them credit for? Is there a spot?
I mean, it's different now. I think now
they've gotten better.
They're better about it. I mean,
but they do the gaslight off ramp thing where they try to say we were always this way, and you kind of go, well, I want you to be that way, so I should give you an off ramp. But that's kind of like giving you an off ramp is also letting you gaslight me. But
yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of a way that they were. I don't know. I'm having a hard time thinking of a way they were transparent. The closest you could come was with black people in the priesthood. They would be sort of transparent just to kind of brag on Joseph Smith and be like, well, he let black people have the priesthood. And then Brigham Young took it away. And
I swear Mountains Meadow Massacre, I knew pretty well.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I did know about Mountain Meadow Massacre, although
they definitely didn't say Brigham Young said it could happen, but I definitely there must have been something in the news or something that happened when I was younger that made them talk about Mountains Meadow Massacre and say that, oh, some bad people did that and they were Mormons, and take some sort of, not from the top responsibility, but just responsibility that some Mormons did that. I think that was there in my younger days. That might be it. But,
well, good luck with your quiz, Delenn.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really see it not coming out in the high 90%. And, so anyway, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Nothing else to cover. Nothing else to hit.
Well, cool beans. We done it.
Thanks for chilling, hanging, everybody.
Yeah, we'll see you later.
Hasta la pasta.
Mm-hmm.